Welcome back. It's Beyond the Box Score. I'm Dan Schneier. That's Jacob Gibbs. And today is a show I've been very excited about, eagerly awaiting this one, Jacob. It's our wide receiver rankings for the 2026 rookie class. Now, I will say this. This is our rankings based on our evaluation of the film, of the metrics, of the analytics, and the projection we see as far as how do these receivers move versus college talent, and how will that impact how they move and win versus NFL defensive backs. Things will change. The draft is Thursday. Landing spots will make a big difference in my mind, at least, Jacob, for the rankings. For my rankings, at least, I do really, they do impact where I have these players. But I'm excited to just talk about this pure, a pure look at the receiver class right now, because before they get to their landing spot, it really is just purely how you see these players as prospects. So very excited to see where you have them stacked up. Very excited to stack them with you today. And you know what? We're talking ball. You got your Kansas City Royals sweatshirt on. I didn't even know until today you were a Kansas City Royals fan.
Of course.
Quite frankly, I didn't even really know the Kansas City Royals had a fan base. I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah. I say that as a fan of a Mets team that just lost 11 straight games.
I was going to say, multiple World Series appearances over the past 10 to 12 years, but okay, go off.
I just kind of think like the Midwest. No, the Midwest is great, fans. I shouldn't say anything about the Midwest. I love the Midwest. I lived there. I loved it. So my bad. Sorry to all the Kansas City Royals fans out there. Mike Schmidt was a great player. I think he played for the Royals. Anyway, let's talk receivers.
Let's talk receivers. There are a lot to talk about. A couple weeks ago, we did an analytical deep dive because I hadn't had the time yet to watch the film on all these guys, and compared what we've got just looking, at the metrics and the spreadsheet or whatever, like just looking at the stats for these receivers and how they stacked up compared to receivers from the past 5 draft classes. I have now bled my eyes out watching all the film on 20 different receivers, and I'm ready to talk ball. Looking forward to it. So
love it.
Without further ado, just going to go top to bottom with my wide receiver rankings, run through these in groups, in tiers.
And let me just be clear with one thing before you do it. Okay. These are your rankings for dynasty, redraft, or everything.
Dynasty fantasy football.
Okay.
Before draft landing spots with projected draft capital. And so I'll give you my ranking, my projected draft capital, and I'll let you know when we're at a tier break, and then we'll talk.
Cool.
All right, tier 1, wide receiver 1 for dynasty fantasy football purposes. Makai Lemon with top 15 projected draft capital. Wide receiver 2 is Carnell Tate with top 10 projected draft capital. We are going to, at the end of the show, talk about some of the likely potential landing spots for each of these top players as we look forward to round 1, and get an idea of which ones we think would be the best, which ones we think would be the worst. Maybe as I show you these stacked rankings, see where they might move if they were to land in certain spots, because my stacked rankings are after the draft when I do have landing spot and draft capital data for each of the past receivers, and it's with a projection right now. So it will update once I get that information. So Lemon is 1, Tate is 2. I do think Tate will get drafted higher, but there are some teams that could draft him high that scare the crap out of me. Whereas Lemon's game, I think, is more likely to translate pretty much regardless of where he lands for fantasy purposes.
Yes.
Wide receiver 3, this is the biggest surprise for me so far, as I have moved Casey Concepcion ahead of Jordyn Tyson. I just have a round 1 projection for each of them. I think Tyson will get drafted before him, but I don't know for sure. It seems like momentum is in his favor and is positive coming out of his workout. So I'm guessing that he'll be maybe even the second receiver drafted in this class.
Maybe the first.
Sure, maybe. Jordyn Tyson, but I do have Concepcion ahead of him. We'll see. We'll see where they each land. As of right now, wide receiver 3, Concepcion, wide receiver 4, Jordyn Tyson, wide receiver 5, Omar Cooper Jr. So that's 5 of the 6 players that I have with a round 1 draft capital projection. That is the end of this tier. Any thoughts, Dan? Do you have a wide receiver 1 hot take you want to give? Where are we at with this group of 5?
I did tease my wide receiver 1 hot take that I want to give, but that's the sound of a sizzling hot take that just cooled off in the breeze, because unfortunately I can't deliver like I wanted to for the people. Because for me, it is Makai Lemon as my wide receiver 1 for dynasty fantasy purposes. The things you brought up, it's just such a tried and true, doesn't need a landing spot to be a great fantasy asset player. So he's going to be one. But the guy I toyed with, who will be my wide receiver 2, is Casey Concepcion. And it's close for me. I wanted to go Casey Concepcion, wide receiver 1 for fantasy. Just like Makai Lemon, I am not as worried about landing spot with a player like Casey Concepcion for all the things we've talked about. I think he's the best horizontal separator. The thing I love about him, because I've rewatched him a lot lately, he's the best. He has the best hand usage at the top of his routes of these 4 receivers in my mind, besides maybe Makai Lemon. Like, he's so strong, man. That strength, I talked about it, I think, on yesterday's episode, the Roddy White thing. Like, it matters at the NFL level. Like, he's able to use his strength to his advantage to win routes. And that doesn't even touch on what he does in the vertical plane, his ability to decelerate, re-accelerate, his ability to win after he catches the ball, which is all good things for fantasy, depending on where he lands. The 2 other guys are the most interesting to me, and we'll get to the 5th in a second, Tyson and Tate, because I do honestly think if they land in the right spot, I can move them both way up the board. For Tyson, the idea with him is, can he be Devontae Adams at the next level? Because as far as just winning routes, and I wasn't big on Tyson, but my co-host Nick, who's very big on Tyson, was like, you need to take some more time and watch more Tyson because he loves him. And I was like, you know what? I can see why you love this prospect so much. He's the easiest separator in the class by far. But where and who he lands with from both a quarterback and scheme standpoint, I think can make the difference, because he's not going to be somebody who wins like Concepcion with a lot of these post-catch explosive plays. Same thing Lemon can do. He's going to be someone who wins on volume, I think, Jordyn Tyson, someone who just continues to get open over and over again and is in an offense that feeds him the ball. So who is that going to be? I don't know. Same thing goes for Tate for me. Like, I need him to be in a vertically attacking offense that's going to be getting him the ball a lot, like a Joe Burrow, T. Higgins type situation. And then he can shine. So those 2 are big for me. The one that stands out for me, though, on your top 5, Jacob, is Omar Cooper Jr. I'm not as high on him for a multitude of reasons. I brought up a few on the show yesterday with Sigmund Bloom. For those who haven't listened, check it out. It was a great show. Draft Superlatives, a lot of fun. I don't love the guys who aren't the best receivers on their team, but have this profile that people really like and they get moved up the board. I respect the idea of putting him there, especially because of his draft capital. He is a strong player. He has a little bit of Debo somewhat to him, but I just never just saw it with him from a trade standpoint and from a projection standpoint. He's not in that tier for me. I have a couple other guys I might consider in that tier, but he wouldn't be one of them.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm curious where you would land on Cooper Jr. I think how I view him is he is, I mean, if he's going to get round 1 draft capital, I think he's got a just very safe role where, like, the worst case for him is probably Josh Downs, Jane Reed, etc., where it's like those guys aren't great for fantasy necessarily, like, because they don't get more than 4 to 5 targets all that often, but they are fantasy relevant. And so I think that as a floor is higher than the floor of anyone else that we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
And then there's the ceiling that he does get to do more, and that what he did at Indiana wasn't necessarily the full view of what Omar Cooper Jr. can do. And I know that he was technically the wide receiver 2 on the team, where they ran all the RPO stuff and a lot of the design stuff through another player, but it's not as if he wasn't productive.
Right.
Didn't he have like 13 touchdowns? Like, I feel like he was
Super
still
productive player still.
very productive player. So to me, as I dug into his profile, I'm like, there might be a lot of untapped potential here. And the fact that people think he's worthy of going in round 1 probably speaks to that.
Right.
That NFL evaluators are looking at the situation and saying, this is the guy who has the NFL level skill set. As far as the skill set, it's obvious with the avoided tackles,
Right.
but I also think that there's something there to like as a route runner, and something that could be built upon. Matt Harmon liked his work as a route runner as well. I saw a lot of big wins as a route runner on film, and some of those he didn't get the ball on because the offense wasn't really built around him, and wasn't really getting through those reads very often, to find him down the field. So I think Omar Cooper Jr. is really interesting because he has some semblance of safety, and there is upside as well.
Yeah, I think I can see it. Like, if he gets in the right spot and he has that first round capital and it's a team that's willing to use him like the 49ers used Debo when he first started his career over there, I could totally see it. Like, it's not a player I don't like. He had, I think, 27 forced missed tackles, which is top 5 in the class. He's really good after the catch at creating, has that Concepcion to him in my mind. Explosive post catch. He's strong as hell. Big, and he has big hands, which I like. Almost 10-inch hands, 9.5, 9.5/8, which I do like for all receivers. I think that's an underrated aspect of his game. And I think, he ran a 4.42, and I think he can be maybe some of that like unexpected slot vert type of player that breaks open a big play. Really, in my mind, he's kind of like, to me, reminds me somewhat, just from watching him, this is a weird comparison, of a much stronger version with more a little bit, not, I just say a much stronger version and a bigger version with bigger hands of a Wan'Dale Robinson. That's kind of how I felt with Wan'Dale Robinson at Kentucky tape, the Will Levis Wan'Dale Robinson tape that I watched, just reminded me of that. And I think that works at the NFL level, and it works in fantasy. It just is somewhat dependent to me on the landing spot. And that's my only thing with him. Like, I want to make sure he goes to a spot where they're going to use him and they're going to get him that volume early on, because he's explosive. I think I saw that he had 30 plays of 20+ yards over the last 2 seasons. Definitely an awesome stat to see. Like, good post catch, forces missed tackles, creates. It's all the things we want for fantasy. He's a landing spot guy for me.
Yeah, like when you bring up Wandell, I just think he just can do a lot more. I get the comparison, but it's just like so many of those plays where Wandell doesn't quite get the first down. I think he does get the first down, and sometimes he can turn it into something big because he's legitimately excellent after the catch at creating yards. So is your stance that you were surprised that he was in this tier 1, or that you were surprised that he was wide receiver 5? Would you be moving somebody ahead of him?
I mean, I may have guys ahead of him, but that's just like an analyst. Like, that's just, everybody has their own feel and like for what they want out of receivers. But I think he should be the wide receiver 5 because of the draft capital projection, and because this is a tried and true like profile that works for fantasy. So my more surprise was that he was in this tier of 4.
Okay, well, let's talk about the next tier. I mean, we've got the guys right here, so we can figure out if you want to move somebody ahead of him. For me, it's Brennan Thompson, who I did just put a video out.
I love how much you love Brandon Thompson
on YouTube. He's extremely fun, and yeah, this is gonna seem like a super hot take to have him where I do. Most people have him at least outside the top 10, if not further down the wide receiver rankings for this rookie class. But I think he's really intriguing. So go check out that video. I think he's somebody who could be really useful for fantasy if he gets paired up with a good play designer. I have Thompson at wide receiver 6 with a round 3 projection.
Okay.
Denzel Boston at wide receiver 7 with around 1 to 2 projection, and Elijah Surratt at wide receiver 8 with around 2 to 3 projection. So that's my tier 2. I wanted to ask you just quickly, do you have any Denzel Boston thoughts? Because I don't think you and I have talked about him that much, but you and I have talked about Thompson and Surratt a lot.
We haven't spent enough time talking about Boston, probably. He's somebody who I think fits more of what I'm looking for if I was going to put somebody else in that tier 1, which I'm not. And I consider other players, like we'll talk about him a little bit later, but like, I'm really high on Bryce Lance. I just rewatched a lot of him, and I might put him, if I was going to put anybody up there, it might be him for me. So surprising the ball skills there are just much better than you'd expect for a mega athlete. But as far as Boston goes, I did end up liking him a lot more when I watched him. I feel like he gets this billing of the type of prospect that really hasn't worked a lot when we bought them recently, right? The Romo Dunze types, the contested catch guy who's more of an X receiver, plays on the outside, sometimes gets lost in a NFL offense once he's drafted, sometimes doesn't get the volume he needs. And I think people view him as like this rigid athlete, which I don't think he is, honestly, from watching him. I feel like he moves really well and he has loose hips. And I think he showed that in some ways at his pro day. I mean, he ran a sub-7 3-cone drill. That's really, really good for a wide receiver who's 6'4", 212. Just an absolute big receiver that's running, that's showing off good change of direction, at least on testing times. And I feel like I see it as well when I watch him. I think he uncovers well. I think he does a good job of tracking the ball. That's expected, like the tracking, the contested catch, the high pointing of the football. He's not like a burner by any means, obviously. Like, you don't see that on the tape. But is this a weapon that can work for fantasy? Is this somebody I can move into that top tier for dynasty? For me, no, but that's more so because I don't want to say I've learned my lesson, Jacob, but I've just been nervous about drafting these kind of receivers for fantasy because I think it depends a lot on the quarterback play, the offensive line, all these factors that are just out of his control versus a guy like Cooper who just get him the ball and he'll do a lot for you.
Yeah, I think you framed that really well. I wanted to touch on Boston because when I've talked about him, I've said that he makes me nervous because he has this, 14.5 yard average depth of target, and those
Right.
players, it's tough to translate. I did want to just be clear that I also think he can do more. I think you're right. The 3 cone drill is probably relevant. I think it shows up on film where he
Yeah.
is not just the contested catch stuff, but he's also able to sometimes create some separation. And I think he has a really good feel for space. And so in a better situation, honestly, it was one of the worst wide receiver situations that I watched in terms of like how on time the ball is getting there.
Not worse than Concepcion.
I don't know. It was
Maybe.
really it was bad.
It was so
Yeah.
bad.
At least with Concepcion, they wanted to push the ball down the field, and it felt like the
Yeah,
quarterback
right.
wanted to get the ball
Good
down the
point.
field.
Good point.
Often the offensive line just couldn't. Boston, man, it just felt like so often the quarterback like was dropping his eyes, and yeah, it was a lot of stuff contributing to it. I think where it could have been much better statistically for Denzel Boston, and so it takes a projection, but maybe it could be more than just the downfield X receiver stuff. They did
Yeah.
move him into the slot and occasionally do some design things for him where it's like I think they
Yes.
understood that he had a little bit more than just that X receiver stuff. Um, and so Michael Pittman is the guy I always compare Boston to, and I hear some people use Cortland Sutton, and I don't like that one quite as much because I
No.
do think Sutton's more of just
More
a
explosive.
vertical plane kind of player. He also, yeah, more explosive for sure. So that I think it's important to touch on all this with Boston in the right situation. He would certainly be ahead of Brennan Thompson in these rankings, and he might even push up. I mean, if we don't like Cooper Jr.'s spot, but we do like Boston's spot, if Boston gets drafted ahead of him or whatever, like there's a chance he might push up ahead of Omar Cooper Jr. at the top of this tier two. So yeah, we'll spend more time with that at the end of the show when we do look at
Yeah.
the landing spots for each of these players and where we
I'll
think.
say this though, real quick before we end on this. I do think from watching Boston and understanding this profile and from having us do so many draft classes like this in a row, I actually think he has a lower floor than a lot of the people we're going to talk about today because there is a chance, to me at least, well, we're never going to know until he gets the NFL, but there's a chance to me that he's just not going to be able to beat press. He's not going to be able to create separation. He's not going to be able to get over the top and
Yes.
stack on the outside. And then it's like, what else does he give you? Because
Did,
he's not going to be making sharp cut wins. He's not an after the catch guy.
did you watch the Ohio State game?
I did not watch that one. No,
He got completely bodied.
taken out. Yeah, was it a big? What was his name? My guy I like there, biggest Biggison is. I don't never know how to pronounce his name. I think he was probably matched up against him though. It
It,
seems like what I would do if I was Ohio State.
it was pretty wild watching it where I was
Yeah,
like, this is a round one pick. Like it
right,
felt like he was like almost never winning.
exactly. And
And
you'll
I was
see that from a lot of these types of outside guys once they translate to the NFL.
right. So no, I think that's valid. Like Boston's not somebody I'm planning to be drafting much
Me
of,
either.
but I do think in some situations, if he does get into a spot where he's used a lot more than you might expect for his
Right.
skill set, like he has the ability to max out usage. If he has good usage, I think he has the ability. I don't think he's that far off of Michael Pittman. I think Michael Pittman's better than people realize.
Yes.
I think he really is more fluid than people realize and more physical than people realize, and is just good at the wide receiver stuff, running routes, catching the ball, and everything.
Right.
Really, like Boston, really good feel for space and timing and stuff like that. And so he's been able to be productive in some instances when the usage is really good. And I think Boston could be something similar to that. It's like he's somebody who could produce for fantasy. I agree with you, though; it's probably not super likely.
Yeah, I ended up liking him more than I thought, but I just came in with a very low bar for what I was looking for, and I just had I struggle with these non-separator types
Yeah.
ever since kind of Odunze.
Yep. All right, let's hit our first break. We'll get back and talk about the tier three receivers. We do have a lot to talk about today. So we're going to hit our first break and we'll get back. And this next tier is really fun. It's Chris Bell.
Yes.
It's a lot of these guys that I know you like on film, but we're going to get to them after our first break.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ hits every highlight from all the sports that matter to you.
JJ, we appreciate your time breaking it down.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With the plays you missed.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And analysis to give you an edge.
All we need is 20 points.
I was shaking in my boots.
Texas, Ohio State, who wins this game?
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, streaming free 24/7.
All right, my tier 3 for fantasy football purposes for Dynasty, wide receiver 9 is Chris Bell out of Louisville. I have him with around 2 to 3 draft capital projection. That could be later because he has the torn ACL.
Yep.
So like Torrey Horton, I thought was like around 3-4 prospect. We saw him fall to around 5 with the ACL last year. This is a much different type of player. We'll see. Wide receiver 9 for now. Wide receiver 10 is Ted Hurst out of Georgia State. I have around 3 to 4 projection for him. Bryce Lance is wide receiver 11, projected round 2 to 3. And wide receiver 12 is Zachariah Branch, projected round 2 to 3. We can get into these individually, but it sounds like you might be moving them like leapfrogging my entire tier 2 and approaching Omar Cooper Jr. So just to start, like, what do you think? Is there anybody here who you think you would prefer to Omar Cooper Jr. if they got the right spot?
Yes. So I just want to start by saying for me, for fantasy, like what I look for are outlier types. What I look for is the upside. I want to hit on the players who I think will translate the best to the NFL if everything breaks right. And what's the ceiling if it all breaks right? It's kind of how I found early in our BTB. My first big call was Christian Watson out of North Dakota State, similar type bet. Like I like that he went to the Packers. I like that they used that draft capital. I was like, I see the skill set, even though it is against really bad competition at North Dakota State. And I really feel like with Christian Watson, he's been a massive hit. He was awesome early, got injured, came back last year and was immediately the guy that Love was leaning on every single game, despite all those receivers that they had last year on the Packers. And the guy that stands out first to me, Jacob, is Bryce Lance. Out of all these guys, I thought I'd be highest on Chris Bell, and I was for a while. And then I became a Ted Hurst guy who I still like. I still like both of those guys. But if I had to bet on any of these 4, it would be Bryce Lance to me. And for Bryce Lance, I went back and watched a lot of him last night. What really stood out to me was the things we'll start with are the fun parts of him. He's 204 pounds and he ran a 4.32. And that 4.32 is real 4.32 because he also had the second best 10-yard split, a 1.48 of anyone at the entire combine. So it's that quickness that the 10-yard range, and it's that long speed with the long stride once he gets going. And at 204 pounds to be able to do that is really kind of insane. Like you expect that kind of speed, 4.32, 1.48, and it actually shows up on tape from somebody who's 180, 175, 185. To do it at 204 shows you're that different level athlete. And it shows up in all the other testing, right? 41.5-inch vertical, just an absolute explosive player once he gets the ball in his hands. The broad jump, 11.1. The short shuttle, this was the most surprising to me, 4.15. Really good at just kind of getting in and out of his cuts. 98th percentile burst and speed score. But the thing that you would expect when it comes to Bryce Lance is, oh, well, he's just this mega athlete playing at North Dakota State. They can get him the ball in space and he'll take it to the house. He runs these like double moves on the vertical plane, Jacob, in the post where it's like, all right, he's separating with these, but who is he playing against, right? Are these guys ever going to give him? But then you actually look at the production profile. It's kind of insane. First of all, he's had over 2,000 yards receiving and 23 touchdowns over his last 2 seasons. Like, awesome. This guy's actually productive. Back-to-back over 1,000-yard years. Also, just a 3.4% drop rate in his entire career. He's dropped just 4 passes. The hands are what impresses me the most. 58.1% contested catch rate. You watch him, and that's what stands out to me versus Christian Watson, some of these other guys that have come from small schools. And that's what stood out to me last night when I rewatched a bunch of his cut-ups. It's the ability to make plays at the catch point. He adjusts the ball really well in the air. And he also can high point the football and make one-handed catches or two-hand catches. He's really good at the catch point. I think NFL coaches are going to see that and be like, this could be a complete outside receiver for me. In addition to just what he offers from an athleticism standpoint, a burst standpoint, like this is the type of player that I could see getting into the NFL and becoming an outside X winner who makes tons of big plays on the vertical plane, in the red zone, and then on these short passes that he catches and just uses 4.32 speed to outrun the rest of the defense.
Okay. I think that's all really interesting, and I want to like give you my response. I'm working on something in the background just to show people the stats. Can you talk me through the rankings, then if he does get round 2, 3
Yeah.
draft capital, if he gets in a spot where it doesn't feel like he's like super buried, like I don't know, Savion Williams last year or something like
Right.
that. Who are you moving ahead of him? So like from this tier, is he clearly at the top?
He could move for me. He could move all the way up to wide receiver 5 for me if he gets like the Packers took Watson at 33 or 34. They gave him great draft capital. He can move into the wide receiver 5 range for me for sure. He would be my wide receiver 5 if he lands in the right spot. And honestly, I could see him moving potentially higher if the landing spot doesn't work out for any of those first 4 guys.
So here's a statistical comparison between him and Watson. It's better per opportunity efficiency for Lance, more touchdowns, 25 receiving touchdowns across his career. Watson avoided tackles at a higher rate.
Yeah.
3.12 yards per run for Watson, 3.24 yards per run for Lance. Similar target rates. I do think, Lance played in an offense that was really putting some numbers on the board,
Yeah.
Let me look at their best season data. My thought when watching him is he feels like an ex-receiver project. I didn't feel confident that his route running was going to be good enough for him to be on the field a lot right away. I just wish I had more glimpses of him playing against better competition. I went and dug into a little bit of his, I think was it Colorado or was it versus Colorado? I think it was versus Colorado. That was like the highest level competition that I got to see him play against, and he didn't play as well in that game. I don't know. Do you think he's somebody who can win on the outside right away with technique? Because like athleticism is awesome and is clearly there. Do you think he's as good of a route runner as Watson? Because Watson, I think, is actually pretty good against press coverage. It's not just like that he's big and is good at the contested catch point.
Watson's definitely came in with a better release package, and I thought a cleaner release off the line of scrimmage and a looser athlete. But I think they're like when it comes to these players, him, Hurst, and Chris Bell. I feel like if you get with the right team and like if a team does use early capital on any of these 3 players, that's a team that has a plan for these players. They're not going to just isolate him against press man on the outside. They're going to find different ways to use him in motion before the snap, line him up as maybe a big slot or in these tight condensed formations like we see the Rams type teams using. And he can be used in a lot of different ways to get free releases off the line of scrimmage. I also necessarily don't think I think it's not easy to say, but it's like a concept in our minds, like, oh, he played against bad competition. Like, will he win? I think a lot of the time you just don't know until you see it. But to me, when I watch him, I could see a guy who can get with the right coaching at the NFL level. Now you're in a totally different spot than you were at North Dakota State, for example, or, for Ted Hurst's case, like Georgia State. Like you're getting real professional coaching. And I think they can teach him a release package that can win early on. It doesn't have to be the most diverse release package in the NFL. Like a lot of people had question marks, Jacob, about Malik Neighbors' release off the line of scrimmage. That was like the only questions coming out of his LSU's profile. It's like, he drops a couple passes concentration-wise, and then he doesn't have a release, a diverse release package off line scrimmage. And I'm like, Antonio Brown just literally won with a speed release over and over and over again. He didn't need like a diverse release package. I think some of these athletes don't need a very diverse release package. They can win with one release off the line of scrimmage and do it over and over and over again. I'm not saying that could be Bryce Lance, but I think it's possible with the right coaching that he can get on the field early.
Okay.
He's too good of an athlete. Like, if you're an NFL coach, like, why would you not want this guy on the field? He's a threat to do something big for your offense every single time. You need to figure out how to get him on the field, and you need to figure out the right ways to use him. But once you do that, he's so much of a better threat for you than I don't know, I don't want to bury anyone by saying anything like any name of a receiver in the NFL right now, but a lot of these players are on the field on a down-to-down basis that don't really have the ability to do anything big from a post-catch standpoint or from a vertical standpoint.
I'll just say when I watched him, I didn't think that he looked like a better athlete than Christian Watson. I know that he tested extremely well, but I just thought there was something that Watson has in terms of lateral movement that was clearly beyond what Lance brings. Watson just seems so springy to me. And
I would agree with that.
like, I know this guy jumped super well, but Watson, just like the way that he attacks the ball, the way that he can make people miss, the fact that, Green Bay's like got him all these design rushes and stuff. Like, he just felt like a different type of athlete. This guy felt a little bit more like a glider or something.
Okay.
But he moves super well. It's just like, in terms of like, once he gets rolling, he's really fast, and
Really
does
fast,
have
yeah.
some like change of direction to him. It's just not, it didn't feel like he's maybe as explosive through his lower body as Watson.
He's more of like, yes, I agree with that. He's not as loose. Like that springy
Yeah.
loose, I agree with that. He's more of the Chris Bell to me type, like just more
Yeah.
explosive and like AJ Brownish almost. Like that's where if he reaches his ceiling to me, it's an AJ Brown type ceiling with NFL coaching. Like that's the thing. Like he has to take a jump as a receiver. You can see it. I can see it. He's raw, but
Well, yeah, he's 23 years old too.
yeah, that's not a good aspect of his profile. But it's like people are like knocking him, like, oh, he just stayed at North Dakota State. It's like, well, honestly, he got a 7-figure offer to enter the transfer portal after his the 2024 season at North Dakota State. Like teams were on to him. He just decided to like stay true to North Dakota State and whatnot and stay there for one more year.
Here's what I've got in terms of like looking at the individual seasons, and I think it is relevant because I showed you that Lance's career numbers looked slightly better
Yep.
than Watson's. Watson's career numbers look worse because he was playing early in his career and Lance wasn't.
Yeah, that's a big factor that scares me about Lance, that he wasn't playing early.
And so playing early in his career and not being as efficient, you see in 2018, Watson only averaged 1.47 yards per out run. That brings the numbers down. But if you look at the best season for Watson, it was freaking 4.6 yards per
Yeah.
out run. Whereas Lance's best season was 3.8.
Right.
And then the second best season was 2.98, and it was basically the same for Watson. And so I think that's interesting. I do prefer Watson. When we did the stacked rankings, I put him up where Watson was basically because overall their profiles look similar. And
Yeah.
if draft capital is similar, then why wouldn't he be there? But after watching him, I do think he's a step lower, which is why I have him below Hurst and Chris Bell.
Yeah.
But yeah, these three right here, Bell, Hurst, and Lance, are really interesting. They're big athletes that we don't. It was like not until kind of their fourth year and for Lance is fifth year, I think, that they really broke out.
Right.
And it wasn't necessarily against the best level of competition either. So Louisville
Right.
for Chris Bell, Georgia State for Ted Hurst, North Dakota State for Lance.
And let me reiterate what I said at the top, like with all three of these guys. Everything you just said, Jacob, means what I said earlier. They have a much lower floor. Like these are potential bust guys, but this is how I play fantasy. I think there is no real floor. I think people think there's a floor for guys like Jeremy Bernard and Cooper, whoever it may be, but there is really no floor. We don't have 20 guys that enter the NFL every year from wide receiver that end up being floor level players that give you fantasy production. A lot of times there's just misses across the board. I'm looking for the big hit here, and I'm looking for somebody who can translate and become like a fantasy. I don't even say star, just like a consistent fantasy option.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jalen Polk. Jalen Polk is the example where it's like
that's what I'm saying.
Floor player, and it's like,
Right.
yeah, I mean, not really, not at all.
He was supposed to be the big floor player. You're right.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to swing on these guys for sure. And that's Brennan Thompson as well. That's why I'm so intrigued by him, is I think that the ceiling is really high. So yeah, I have these guys all behind Elijah Surratt, but if any of them were to get surprisingly high draft capital, that would be really exciting. I really like Bell and Hurst and Lance. Zachariah Branch is the last player in this tier, and I just put him in here because I think he's going to get drafted high. And if so, then he's probably going to get like design touches. I do think he's better than somebody like Malachi Corley or something who had like kind of a similar type of predicament coming in where we didn't get to see him run very many real routes.
Right.
He's a really interesting athlete. And so maybe he kind of does have a chance to become something for fantasy, but I do think it's pretty unlikely. I would much rather take a swing on these other guys because I think that they can do more.
I think I'd take a swing on another player on his team before Zachariah Branch for me.
Interesting. All right, my next tier is a group of 6 players, and it's kind of a weird group of players, just all kind of thrown together. So that's at the top is wide receiver 13, Malachi Fields, and I really like this guy out of Notre Dame. I think he is probably just an X receiver, but I do wonder if he might get the opportunity to do more. Matt Harmon thinks that maybe he would be best used as a big slot guy, which is often what happens when he sees like a big physical receiver who maybe doesn't have the route running acumen or the athleticism or whatever it needs to happen to be like consistently beating man coverage
Right.
on the outside. And I think that's kind of where we're at with Fields. I do think that his film versus press coverage was pretty good. I don't know for sure if that will translate to the pros, but he's not just a big, slow receiver. I think because of his size, but because of the fact that he ran a 4.6, people might think of him that way. In terms of breaking back to the ball at the top of his route, he actually has like some surprising quickness and suddenness with those breaks. And I went on Fantasy Points Data's podcast with Theo Grimminger,
Nice.
and he was asking for somebody that was just like, kind of a conviction call. And I hadn't had a chance to get too deep into receiver yet, so I brought up Malachi Fields, and I was like, Theo, I know he's a year 5, like he's a 5-year player, but if you look at the first 3 years of his career, it's very reminiscent of Nico Collins. It's not quite as good as Nico Collins analytically, but the first 3 years are pretty dang similar in terms of overall numbers and efficiency. And I think you can tell yourself similar stories about Fields as Nico, where the offensive environment at Notre Dame wasn't really conducive to a lot of receiving success. But on a per opportunity basis, you're seeing that yard per route rate consistently above 2. And so then he does stay 5 years, which bothers me a little bit, but it's not like that breakout came in year 4 or 5, like it did for Skylar Bell or a lot of these players. In
Right.
year 3, he put up pretty big numbers. So he's not, to me, Nico is more rangy. Nico has more of the vertical element to his game where he can
Right.
really beat guys over the top. Nico's just, you're basically never going to hear me compare players to Nico because he's just such a ridiculous mover for his size.
Yes.
But if you're looking for kind of the off-brand version of that, I think Fields is sort of similar. I just don't think he's nearly as athletic or as good of a man coverage beater.
I don't necessarily see it with Malachi Fields. I know a lot of people like him, and I know I like the idea that I always love the guy who plays with the bad quarterback play and the bad offensive scheme and environment. 'Cause it's like people don't see the production, so they don't see the upside. And I feel like there's value in that. But I just think that it scares me that, and I'm not all about the testing, dude, but it does scare me when I see him running a 4.61. Nico, for example, was 4.43 athlete. And then the 10 and 20 yard split, Nico was elite in both of those. This was not an elite athlete from the quickness standpoint. The 3-cone, the shuttle, he's just not like, now what you said is true. Maybe it's just, all right, let's move him on the inside and see what happens, because he was a big playmaker at Notre Dame. I think I saw somewhere 75% of his touches result in a touchdown or first down. Like, they came to him when they needed somebody to make a big play. And maybe that, he moves to the inside and becomes that player. But like, for that point that Matt Harmon makes, I have a question, like, and you may have a better idea of this. You may have thought about this more. I just haven't thought about it yet at all. Who are the players that come to your mind that have done that have moved inside to that role and been really successful for fantasy? Is it like Pittman at one point with the Colts, or like who else does that?
Monroe St. Brown is the obvious one, where he really was the use on the outside. It wasn't like a clear emphasis of the offense or anything like that. And then he got moved inside. If you're looking for like another big guy, Drake London has been much, much better on the inside. No, this is not anything even a little bit reminiscent of skill set standpoint. Now, this is a huge, huge dude.
Yeah.
People who were like at the Senior Bowl said that like he just stood out, where he was just physically dominant compared to everyone there. Now
he's great.
He's his own thing. I think he could be interesting on the inside because he's so big that he could bully people there in the blocking and the short and breaking routes and stuff like that, coming back to the ball. But I just wanted to mention him because I think that he has really unique size. His metrics are decent. I think he's a good player, having watched him. Whereas a lot of the times these big bodied receivers are just kind of that. I think this guy actually has a little bit of refinement to his game. You just didn't get to see very much of it because his team was, predicated on the run. That's what they were doing: run first, second, third. And then occasionally when needed, they would throw it up to Malachi Fields, and he normally came down with it.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Raritan. They just didn't use this guy like we think they could. So I'm open to it. I need to see it first before I believe it.
Yeah. He sort of reminds me of Pat Bryant or something, where it's like he's not as good of a route runner as Pat Bryant. He's not as good as of a mover horizontally, but I think he's better at the catch point. And so when I say he reminds me of Bryant, it's just like he was used on the outside, maybe he can be used on the inside. Either way, I'd feel pretty confident he's a good player. And if he gets a chance, if he
Okay.
becomes a starting player for a team, that would be interesting. Like, I could see him being a fit for the Green Bay Packers as this replacement
For
sacrificial
Dobbs.
X receiver out there. And then maybe in time he becomes a little bit more than that, gets moved around a
Okay.
little bit, becomes an important part of the offense. Wide receiver
Love
14, another player who could fill that exact role for Green Bay
Hmm.
is, I don't know how to actually pronounce his name. It's
No one does.
Dejan, I've heard it. Stribling out of Ole Miss. I think a 5-year player that really wasn't very productive until the final couple of years, but people are projecting him to go in rounds 2 or 3. I think he could even like surprisingly move up into round 1.
Me too.
I think people really have been rising on Stribling. The film is just really good, like really well rounded. Like, you get to see him succeed in a lot of different ways. Again, it's like Lance or some of these players where he's 22 years old or whatever, and he's
Yep.
playing against younger, smaller, weaker players. But going to get the ball, occasionally winning routes, blocking, all of that stuff is all good. Occasionally creating with the ball in his hands. And he's a really, really good athlete. And that shows up on film, and it showed up in the testing
Right.
as well. So analytically, I didn't love it at first. I don't like the late breakout. And overall, just the metrics weren't that good. But after watching him, like, all right, I kind of get this. I get why people are into this. So, if he does go to Green Bay, or if he gets round 1 draft capital or something, then obviously he would be intriguing.
Yeah, he's very intriguing from the sense of like you watch him stack on some of these cut-ups, you'll see of him stack vertically and then explode. It's like, wow, this guy could win on the outside at the NFL level. I think he can do it. He can stack, he can track the ball in the air, and he's got 4.36 speed testing wise at 207, by the way, 6.227. Like, he has what you want. 10-inch hand size, that should be great for him. Drops weren't really an issue. He had 9 in his career. It wasn't amazing, but wasn't really an issue there. Played at 3 different programs, so I think is interesting about his profile. I thought, if you look at how he catches the football, it's pretty natural. He's extending away from his frame. That to me is pretty interesting. Just an overall interesting player that I feel like I told you before the pod, Jacob, I haven't watched enough of. Like, I want to watch more to see what everybody loves about him, because everything I just broke down, I like about his profile. And then you add in the blocking, which everyone talks about. It's like, well, that gets him on the field. Is this a guy that can be sneaky productive early in fantasy because of all that?
I think so. Yeah. I liked
Yeah.
Alec Ibanner coming in. I knew that he needed some help with his route running, but I just thought the fact that he is a willing and aggressive blocker and can do a little bit with the ball in his hands might get him on the field right away. And then he did get that chance, even though he was drafted kind of late. Stribling seems like he might be a better version of that. So we'll see where it goes. Wide receiver 15 for me is Chris Brazel. I've got him with a round 3 projection. He could go higher than that. I think he probably has one of the widest ranges of outcomes in terms of draft capital. So we'll see where he lands. His film is decent. I think it's a lot of really easy stuff. So many of his catches, it's like wide open, which is kind of weird because he's playing the SEC. But yeah, it's whether it's the offense or whatever. There just wasn't enough in his film that made me feel like I really had any level of confidence being able to project what he might be moving forward. Whereas like Ted Hurst, I actually really liked his route running.
Yes.
I really liked the way that Ted Hurst attacks the ball.
Yes.
The
dig routes from Ted Hurst are phenomenal for a guy his size.
I think he moves as well as Brazel, but everybody gets so into the movement skills for this Brazel guy. I think Brazel is a little bit more fluid and like he doesn't get tripped up quite as much. Like, he's probably a little bit more fluid than Ted Hurst, who's maybe a little bit more upright. But I think there's more like long striding ability with Hurst.
Yes.
I think Brazel tested better though, so maybe that's just wrong. But
not in all the testing.
Yeah, I really, really liked Hurst's film. Whereas this guy, I was just like, I don't know. There's nothing here that really makes me feel like this is going to be something that works in the NFL.
Well, yeah, it's tough to say. I'll explain that, why I feel that way in a second, because he's the trickiest prospect for me in this entire class, Brazel. And I'll say this about the testing. He didn't do the vertical jump and the broad jump. Those are 2 areas where Ted Hurst dominated in. And if you watch the tape, Ted Hurst is high pointing and adjusting the football when he gets those high balls, and then the post catch explosion, which is the broad jump from Ted Hurst, it's there. I don't see those things as much with Brazel. I just see that ability to sink his hips maybe even better than Hurst, and Hurst is good at it for his size. But to be 6'4" like Brazel, is it Brazel or Brazel? I'm not sure. I'm gonna go with Brazel. I'm gonna go with Brazel. I've heard it more. Brazel, his ability to sink his hips at that 6'4" size, that's what I think has people so intrigued. It's like, all right, well, can we use this guy to be like an at the top of the route winner over and over? If we just develop him with the right wide receiver coach, and he's had terrible coaching, whatever it may be, and then to run a 4.37, which is real, it looks like it at 198. It's all exciting. It's all ball of clay. Why he's my lowest on the ball of clay guys, which are Ted Hurst, Bryce Lance, and who's the other guy we had up, and Chris Bell maybe, is just like what I heard Matt Harmon say this. It's a problem for me, Jacob, because I recently lived it. So I just have that inherent bias in my mind. But I lived the Jalen Hyatt experience with the Giants. And it's like when you have these receivers, because Harmon brought it up, and it's an interesting group of players. The receivers who have lined up at just one position, like he just lined up at one spot all year for Tennessee. He didn't move. Everyone else moves a little bit, plays a little on the slot, plays on the other side of the field. All of the guys he brought up throughout NFL history have done this, including Jalen Hyatt and among others. It's been just like the biggest busts ever in NFL history. I forgot the names now. I heard this a few days ago. It was like 8 or 9 guys that have all just been horrific NFL players. Because like thinking about it, like the same thing with Hyatt, I don't know if you ever saw that Hey Rookie video, but like he was being worked out by the Cowboys wide receiver coach before the draft. And he's like, you can run fast, but you can't play wide receiver. Like you can't run routes. And that's been the case with Hyatt. He hasn't been able to figure out how to play the wide receiver position. I don't know if Brazel can do it. It's possible, but that's not what he did at Tennessee. When you play in that offense, you're not playing wide receiver, like you said. You're just playing some version of football where you're running and you're catching it in a lot of space, and all that space is never available to you at the NFL level. Never. Like the offense doesn't translate at all to the NFL game.
All right, that's that's Dan's tough experience as a Giants fan. It covers so much ground. There's so many different ways to apply the Giants experience, and it's almost always sad. I'm sorry. I'm really curious what you think about the Giants. Like when we get into the potential landing spots for these guys, like which receivers they might be interested in, because they
really don't want them to go Tyson at 5 or 10. It's gonna.
They have two top 10 picks, and then they pick again in the top 30 or 40s.
37,
37. So there's a lot of potential for them to draft a receiver, but
yes,
that will be later in the show. There's still plenty to go in the show, so we are going to take a moment here for our second break, and then we'll get back, finish up the top 20 at receiver, and then compare these receivers to past receiver prospects, all that when we get back from our break.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, can you handle it?
Feels electric.
Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
Okay, my wide receiver 16, Brazel, was wide receiver 15, wide receiver 16 with a round 3 projection, and I think it honestly could be a decent bit later, is Skylar Bell out of Connecticut. So this is another player who broke out late. It was at UConn, so they're independent. They don't play a lot of great competition there. I heard the underdog guys compare Skylar Bell to Jalen Royals, and I think that that's a fair enough reference point if you want to think about Royals as a prospect and how we have not yet seen him amount to much in the league. I think that's because he really needs, for one, Royals got hurt, but the second thing is that he really needs to kind of fit into a specific framework, I think, to be an NFL contributor. That's Jalen Royals and potentially Skylar Bell here as well. So like we got a question from the chat. If the Chiefs were to draft a receiver, does Jalen Royals become irrelevant? It depends on the type of receiver. If they draft Carnell Tate, I think that's only, good things for their other receivers because his presence on the outside allows them more space. His threat is a deep threat, allows more space for the underneath options. And so basically with Royals, I think he kind of has to play in the slot, might be able to be a Z flanker type of receiver as well. That's what he did at the collegiate level, but I think he's best served as a get the ball in my hands, let me be a power player kind of receiver, kind of like Rashee Rice. And so that's always been the vision for me with Royals, was that he's eventually going to replace Rice. So I don't really view what his year one as affecting anything with that outlook. Like he had a knee injury, I think it was, and he couldn't get on the field.
Right.
Maybe that's just a redshirt year, and we see more Jalen Royals in time if they do move on from Rice. Skylar Bell, I don't think looked as good to me as Royals in terms of power. I think he went down a lot easier. He probably is better at juking players out and probably has a little bit more speed. And maybe is a little bit better as a separator, but it's hard to tell just because the competition level is just so bad. So he's interesting. His analytics were really good in 2025, but I do think that those in a lot of ways were boosted by some really big broken plays. Their offense had a lot of designs where they were specifically attacking the types of zone coverages that teams were playing in ways that allowed Skylar Bell to just leak out because these just were not very fundamentally sound defenses that they were playing against. And he would get 40-yard touchdowns on those plays. And so, yeah, I didn't see anything in the film that was really that compelling. In the right landing spot, if he gets to be somebody who is going to be on the field as a slot player and get some looks, then maybe, if Skylar Bell goes to the Dolphins or the Jets or something like that, he's starting in year one, then sure, maybe. Because he's got some athleticism. He can move.
He can move, and I feel like a lot of these people who fit this profile, including Royals and whoever we've gone over through the years, can move, and we all kind of say the same thing. None of them are kind of bad movers or bad athletes, but the reality is, like, how many of them have worked out? Like Khalil Shakir is a hit. That's one I can think of, but I wouldn't put Wan'Dale Robinson, who's been a hit, in this boat because I think Wan'Dale Robinson was a much more explosive athlete and a faster athlete, and he tested much faster than some of these guys. So to me, it's just like a dying breed type profile in the NFL. We're moving away from it. We're moving more toward 12 personnel, bigger players in the slot. You need the right offense for a player like Skylar Bell to hit. It's going to have to come down to that entirely. By the way, I wanted to give a shout out real quick, Jacob, to our chat and to our amazing community. I love the sickos in our chat. Somebody has made a burner account called Emma Schaefer. So it's a combination of Thomas and Emma with the idea in mind that they may be one person, but they're not. They are two different people, and they're two lovely people. So I just found that funny, and I saw him or her commenting in our comment section. But yeah, for me, Skylar Bell is not up my list and not someone I'll be targeting in Dynasty by any means.
All right, wide receiver 16, Skylar Bell out of UConn. Wide receiver 17, we're running through some slot receivers here. Antonio Williams, ran through projection on him as well. I think he's somebody who could go even higher. I actually think it seems like people like him the most out of the slot guys. Matt Harmon liked his work for sure, thought that he could do a little bit more than just slot stuff. I've heard like Tyler Boyd is comparison from a few people. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. He's probably the best bet to be a successful pro out of these slot receivers, him and Jeremy Bernard, I think. But I don't think that his analytical profile is nearly as strong as Bell's. We didn't see as much like catch and run type of upside from him. And so like being able to beat man coverage is a cool trait. We love route runners. Matt compared him to Sterling Shepard, awesome runner. That's, obviously near to Dan's heart. Like we love those types of players, but it's really not that relevant that you can beat man coverage all that often from the slot as like the team second, third, fourth option or whatever. In a league where man's not even played that much. So to me, I'd rather bet on the catch and run potential with Skylar Bell, but to each his own.
I would certainly, just to be clear, bet on Antonio Williams over Skylar Bell. To me, when I watch them, I just see a much better athlete with Antonio Williams, 4.41 speed that shows up to me when I watch him. 39.5-inch vert, 10.4 broad. Those are good numbers as well. And just somebody who I believe can get in and out of his breaks a little bit better. Somebody who I just see a more efficient receiver and a more explosive mover and athlete. I don't know how it works for fantasy though. That's probably the problem for me. He has to get to the right fit for it to work in fantasy, but I do like him a lot. Him and Jeremy Bernard, I think, are in a different tier for me over the Skylar Bell.
Fair enough. Bernard's next. I've got him with around 2 to 3 projection. He's probably the most powerful of this group.
Yeah.
I think I've heard some people compare him to like Debo a little bit, where he's kind of beefed up, catch and run guy a little bit. Doesn't have, I don't think, the same kind of like lateral movement skills. But it's not like he's bad. It's just like Debo's nutso there. So this guy's interesting. His analytical profile is not very good.
Right.
But he's somebody who could get on the field and contribute if he gets drafted early. He's worth knowing out of Alabama, Jeremy Bernard.
He could be our Jalen Polk. Unfortunately, I hope not. But like, it does seem like a profile that hasn't worked a lot for fantasy, but I liked watching him play, man. And I think the thing that stood out to me is his change of direction skills. They're real, and that's going to provide the quarterback, in my mind, if he gets in the right scheme, a safe option that he can rely on over and over to be in the right spot and to make the catch, because he can change direction and get open and separate. He had a 6-7-1 3-cone and a 4-3 run short shuttle. The 3-cone specifically is pretty damn good there. 6-7-1, one of the best I've seen. Just for comparison's sake, we talked about JSN, which was we talked about Eli Heidenreich, which is 6-5-5, which is one of the better ones. So just to give a little frame of reference, he forced 17 missed tackles in 2025. I really do think he can change directions. I think he's got good ball skills. I actually like Jeremy Bernard for real life a lot. I just don't know if it's more of the fantasy profile we're looking for.
Yeah. And I think you're right that both Bernard and Williams are better real life players. Will probably get drafted ahead of Skylar Bell. It's just like, I think if Bell is actually if his athleticism translates and he's actually somebody you can get the ball to, and do catch and run stuff, that could be pretty fun. Whereas I just don't know if the other two I'm ever going to care about having on my fantasy team.
Yeah, I get it.
All right. Eric McAllister is wide receiver 19. And he really reminds me of Keandre Lambert-Smith from last year, who I liked a lot.
Yeah.
But it's just like, this guy someone who actually has a realistic chance of mattering, or is this just like a deep cut, like I like this guy a lot kind of guy? You know what I mean? Yeah, where it's like he's got cool routes, he looks cool out there, and he was really productive, more productive than KLS, really efficient, averaged almost 3 yards per run across his career. Pretty decent at going and getting the ball, like at the catch point, can make a little bit happen after the catch too. So he's a name to know. But I mean, he, like KLS, he could go late. I think he could go even later than KLS, who went pick 158 in round 5 and landed with the Chargers. So I'm behind him. We're about to get to these stacked rankings, because I think the landing spot was really interesting for KLS. We'll see with McAllister. He's a name to know at least. But
sure.
I've seen some ranking sets where he's outside of the top 30 at receiver, which I don't really understand for a guy who had a career 3-yard per out run rate.
Yeah.
Wide receiver 20, shout out to my guy Ryan Heath. Just did an episode of FFT with him on Monday. He really likes Kevin Coleman Jr., who's another slot type. By the way, I think McAllister might be able to play in and out of the slot. We've run through a bunch of slots here at the end. I don't think he necessarily has to be in that group of slot players. Coleman definitely does. He's a small receiver who worked almost entirely out of the slot, but did put up good production at Mizzou. Ryan compared his production profile to Luther Burden, which I thought was interesting. Like that he played a similar role, just at a slightly diminished return level there. And he was older when he did it. So he to me is kind of like these guys that we just ran through, where it's like Skylar Bell or something like that, where it's like, if he gets in the right spot, if he happens to be like the Jets slot receiver or something, like I think it's worth knowing who Kevin Coleman Jr. is. But not somebody I'm like over the moon about. Dan, you did have 2 sleepers though, I think, that were not my top 20, and so please put me on game.
Yes, I got 2 sleepers that are both 2 bet on traits guys for me. Both will be day 3 players. I'll start with the player I teased earlier, who I actually would bet on for sure over his teammate Zachariah Branch, and it's Colby Young, the wide receiver from Georgia. I freaking love this guy's burst, man, and he is an absolute awesome athlete. He's 6'3", 3'4". He's almost 6'4", just a tad under 6'4", 215. Had a weird path. It's kind of like the Ted Hurst path. It was a 0-star recruit. Took a gap year. Went to a junior college, then Miami, then Georgia. But when you watch some of the clips I saw of him at the East West Shrine game, beating corners, he's got this awesome release package off the line of scrimmage for a player of his size, and then just the ability to burst off the line of scrimmage and create. And he only had a 6.3% career drop rate. He's got big hands. He uses them well. 14.6 yards per catch in this Mickey Mouse Georgia offense that I absolutely hated watching. And bad quarterback play, bad offense, bad usage, but actual athleticism, release package, size, speed. He's got all that. He ran an unbelievable, and I think people kind of took notice to him after the combine because he ran the gauntlet better than mostly all receivers. He looked more natural running that than I thought anyone we watched. His profile athletically, just under 6 foot, just like I said, just almost 6'4", 4.49 speed, which is awesome for a player that size. And it's really just the twitch and the explosiveness to me. I feel like he's got way better ability to move than somebody his size should. So I'm very excited about what he could be at the NFL level. I saw something also from Next Gen Stats that was really intriguing to me. He led all Georgia receivers, or he led, all receivers when it came to the gauntlet drill with 19.72 miles per hour. So he ran the gauntlet drill faster than any receiver. Now, that was also the case, I think, for a player that I like that ended up being a buzz in the NFL level, Keon Coleman. So obviously this is not like a be-all, end-all type situation. And we're talking about a day 3 guy and a gamble. But to me, I think he has a lot of upside. The other gamble I would make on day 3, another sleeper that I like, is J. Michael Sturdivant. I never know how to pronounce his name.
What did you just say?
J. Michael Sturdivant.
Okay. I'm finding
him from Florida.
No, I've never heard of you.
Sturdivant, I think is how you pronounce his name. J. Michael Sturdivant. So let me tell you a little about J. Michael Sturdivant.
Please do.
With a 9.96 relative athletic score, 6'3", 207, 4.4 flat, I believe. Let me get the exact numbers. 6'2.5", 207, 4.4 flat, with a 1.53 10-yard split, a 39-inch vert, a 10-11 foot broad jump, explosive, quick twitch, fast. He was the 19th most athletic receiver out of 4,190 since they started testing in 1987. So I knew about that at the combine. So I'm like, let me watch him a little bit. Let me see what he does. And he came from UCLA. So I watched a little bit of his UCLA cut-ups, and then at Florida where, he's had bad quarterback play across the board. I really liked what I saw when it came to stacking on the vertical plane, having a great release, stacking the defensive back, and then having the speed to get there, but also the ball tracking ability, the length, and he extends for catches away from his frame. He makes diving catches. He's awesome, dude. And he is the son of a former NFL player. His uncle was an NFL Hall of Famer, running back, I believe, and his mom was a track star. So he comes from an insanely athletic family. But what surprised me the most about him is he could actually stack on the vertical plane, extend, track the football, make these awesome catches. He's not just a project from an athletic standpoint. He's got a really interesting skill set. And I liked him even more at UCLA, which is not a surprise to me because Florida's passing game was just such a nightmare last year. It was really hard for anybody to do anything in that passing game. But I just think he can actually play football, and I think he can be just like a vertical winner on the outside. Now, this is more of a Josh Palmer type profile. Maybe I think if I was going to compare him, it would be more of what you said, the Keandre Lambert-Smith type. Who knows if this will ever be anything for fantasy, depending on if he gets in the right place. But I'm willing to bet on these types of traits.
I love it. Thank you, Dan. I'm adding these players.
Colby Young especially. Watch him because I think he could be real.
Adding these players to my list, if I can find them. There he is, J. Michael Sturdivant.
I think it's Sturdivant, but
it's Sturdivant.
I can't pronounce names. As Johnny Airport said in the chat, my Ja'Cory Krosky merit was just across the board horrible throughout the year. Just couldn't figure it out.
Okay, that's good stuff. Do you have any idea if these guys are going to get drafted?
They'll be day 3 guys. Colby Young for sure. Colby Young will be more of round 4, round 5 range for any good GM because that Sturdivant is more of just do I need a vertical player in my offense? Do I need somebody big and fast who can play on the outside to compete?
Colby Young play in 2025? Why am I not finding him?
He was injured at first. And then I think he played. How many games did he play? Let me see exactly how many games he played. So I know he came into the year with an injury. Let me see what he ended up playing. He had a bad injury. No, he had a bad injury at the end of 2025. And he rehabbed to get back for the college football playoff, which he did. And I did like that about him. This is from Brugler. Brugler's Zachariah Branch said, sometimes people get injured and disappear, but he was nothing like that. He likes to be coached. He's a student of the game. He'll fit any locker room. Let me see how much time he missed because I knew he missed some time. So his injuries he missed 6 games. He had a fractured left fibula with a torn ligament, which required surgery, and he missed 6 games. That was in October last year of 2025. So he missed a lot of the games in season and then came back for the college football playoff.
Yeah, I finally found him. All right. good stuff. Colby Young.
Big sleeper for me.
His analytical profile looks decent for a player who, had, only 358 yards in his final season, but Miami recruit and then Georgia. And he did, it wasn't a huge breakout, but he did kind of break out early. He had 939 yards and 10 touchdowns across his first 2 seasons at Miami.
Yeah.
1.8 yards per run isn't bad for a young player playing at Miami. And then the size and the athleticism and everything Dan laid out is definitely intriguing. Good stuff, Dan. I'll add them to my list along with the Michigan tight end. I've got some food for thought here from Dan. I love it. All right, let's dig into these stacked rankings that I've been teasing. So
stack them up.
This is a look at how I ranked these wide receivers for fantasy football, for dynasty fantasy football upon being drafted. If you're watching on the screen on YouTube, I've got the round they were drafted in, and then the overall pick, and then the year as well. So from the top, it's Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Jalen Waddle, Drake London, all top 10 picks. Jackson Smith and Jigba at pick 20, Chris Olave at pick 11, Tedero McMillan, pick 8, Garrett Wilson, pick 10. So I just want, that's all. Then we've got Travis Hunter, Rome Odunze, Jameson Williams, all top 12 picks. We've got 3 guys who could go top 15, So this is the range. And I think that potentially they could push even higher. If you look at the players who are beyond this, beyond Odunze and Jameson Williams, it's Emeka Egbuka at pick 19, Luther Burden at pick 39, Treylon Burks at pick 18, Brian Thomas Jr., Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Rashad Bateman, all picked between pick 22 and pick 27. If these guys are going mid to early round 1 with Tyson, Lemon, and Tate all potentially being in that range, then they're entering a really interesting group of players here, where then it becomes, how do you feel about the individual profiles? How do you feel about the landing spot? We're going to talk about each one individually, but I did just want people to know right now this is where I'm at. Makai Lemon at the top with Carnell Tate just behind him, and those two are ahead of Emeka Egbuka, but just behind Jameson Williams, Travis Hunter, and Rome Odunze, Garrett Wilson, Tedero McMillan, all with top 12 draft capital just ahead of them. So I think Lemon and Tate could move even higher than that. They also could move lower depending on what happens in the draft. Egbuka behind Tate, and then Concepcion is next. So I ended up with Concepcion ahead of Luther Burden, which I found very interesting because I really, really, really liked Burden's prospect profile. And then his draft capital was tough because 39, he's clearly the lowest drafted player up in this range for my rankings. But I also really liked the landing spot with Ben Johnson,
Right.
So he's an interesting one. And I think Concepcion being in the same range says a lot about how high I am on this prospect. I think in a vacuum, if all things were equal, just looking at the two as players, I do prefer Luther Burden. But it's really not by that much. I think Concepcion offers more explosive play potential. As simple as this sounds, he's faster. And so I think he's really interesting. And there were more flashes of him winning routes than Burden. We just didn't get to see very much of Burden doing stuff outside of the slot. I felt really good about Burden's limited opportunities outside of the slot, but Concepcion is we got a full season of him doing that stuff. So I feel really, really good about him. Dan and I have a profile on Concepcion coming out first thing on Wednesday this draft week.
Our longest profile too.
So it's true. Yeah. We had a lot to say about Concepcion. He's a really interesting player. All right, moving down the board here. Treylon Burks is behind Luther Burden at pick 18, and then BTJ, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Rashad Bateman, Jahan Dotson at pick 16. And this is the Jordyn Tyson spot for me. So I'm actually, I have Concepcion closer to Lemon and Tate than I do to Tyson. And the players in between Tyson and Omar Cooper Jr.
I'm surprised by where you have Tyson.
The players in between Tyson and Cooper Jr. are Xavier Worthy, Matthew Golden, and Trey Harris. Picks 28 and 23 for the Texas receivers. Trey Harris is pick 55, and I just really loved the profile and the landing spot. So Tyson, I've got a profile on him that you guys can watch. I just have a bunch of concerns, Dan.
Same. I just feel like he's the exact profile, but a much better version of Rashad Bateman?
I thought Bateman was a more consistent route runner and had a
Okay.
lot more verticality to his route running that offered upside. Um, I sort of get the comparison.
They just
Tyson,
looked a lot alike running routes, and I was a huge Bateman fan, by the way, but I think Tyson is much better at creating separation than Bateman.
I think he's better at. No, I just don't agree at all. I think
Yeah,
Bateman is really, 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 really good as a route runner, even now, even after all the injuries, and especially coming into the league.
they both had a lot of injuries, by the way, even dating back to their college profile.
Yeah. Yeah, I get why people compare them. I just do think Bateman is a better man press coverage beater, and it's really not very close. I think Tyson could approach him because he does have pretty crazy like lateral movement,
Crazy lateral movement.
but Bateman is better than people realize. Andy's like way more rangy. Like when he's striding out and stuff, Andy has longer arms and is better at like going to
Yeah.
get the ball. Like I don't know, man. I don't know. I kind of do think that we're overreacting a little bit to Tyson right now with like the the highlight moments are awesome, but like I don't know. I just after watching like 10 games of him back to back years of like full games, I just didn't feel like this was somebody who I trusted at all.
I know what you're. I'm not high on him. I want to make that clear. Like I'm lower than consensus on him, and Nick was big on him. But I can also see like the one defining trait that makes him a winner at the NFL level way more than I could see it ever with a player like Rashad Bateman and some of these guys even that we'll see listed above him. And that is like if he gets to his peak, it is Davante Adams-esque, in my opinion, with his ability to just win routes with his hips, with his eyes, with his lower body, with the ability to just change direction. Like he's loose, he's explosive in and out of his cuts, in my opinion, even if he's not the most explosive player post catch. I just see him win. Like it's the ceiling for me is like Justin Jefferson if he was slower, a lot slower.
I just don't. I don't know. I feel.
Yeah,
I feel like
you don't see it with him, and
I
I respect that.
I think Devontae's like so much more powerful, and maybe I've just
Powerful. Yes,
got that
no, I
in my.
agree with that. He's not going to ever be as powerful as that, which is a problem. So maybe he isn't that because of that, which is why it's like a Bateman to me. Because I thought Bateman was similar to me when I watched him at Minnesota. But agree he had more speed and he could win more vertically, but he was not nearly the separator, in my opinion, that Tyson is.
Because like Devontae's bigger,
Yeah.
has 72nd percentile arms, whereas this guy has like I think
True.
11th percentile arms or something like that. Jordyn
Horrible
Tyson.
wingspan, horrible catch radius, and bad post catch explosion numbers. Let me see. I'm curious about Davante Adams' combine though, because I remember the player he was at Fresno coming out. He took such a huge jump with the Packers. Like he became a much better player. He was coming out of college at
I
Fresno.
don't think he tested very well.
He didn't. He was
Pretty sure it
6
was, like-
foot 212 at 6 foot, just under 6'1", 212. And then they don't have much back then. It was such an old combine, but he did have a really good vert jump, bad broad or mediocre broad jump, bad short shuttle, which is absurd because he's so good at changing directions. And then a 4.56 40 for Davante Adams. 1.64 10-yard split is insane for Davante Adams. How is that possible? How is that even possible? But yeah, he's not as strong.
Yeah. Tyson is interesting for sure. I basically like the best though of his analytical profile is not to me significantly better than Tate or Lemon. I mean, their best yard per route run rate, season best, is almost identical for the three of them. So like he has a better career number and he got to play earlier. And I guess that you could hold that over Lemon's head because they played at sort of similar levels of competition. We're like, Tate played at freaking Ohio State. Like, I just don't think it's relevant at all that he got on the field before Carnell Tate. Of course he did.
Yeah.
I
don't think a lot of what goes into the analytical profiles is relevant to me, but that's just how I'm never going to come around to it. I'm an old boomer when it comes to that. I hate it. I hate the analytics profiles. I just think they lack all context across the board almost every time. But they seem to work, right? Like that's why they're there and that's why they're popular. Cause like, I respect JJ who's big on his model and like they do work. Like the breakout, all that stuff does seem to matter from a historical standpoint. And though we are working with very small sample size when it comes to those things.
Yeah. To finish on Tyson, I'll just say that like I'm not out on him necessarily in the right landing spot. He'll probably move into this range with, I mean,
Okay.
maybe even as high as like right behind Luther Burden or something like
Okay.
that. When I gave the Tyson profile a month ago, I said that I think he has the highest upside of any receiver in this class, and I still think that's probably about right. I wish that he could do more after the catch.
Besides
Um,
KC. Just kidding. But maybe.
well, it's just like if he can actually be this like 31% target share kind of guy or
Yes.
whatever, like
Yes.
that's really, really unique. I think that the chances of that are incredibly slim.
The
There's
problem with that is like the only way it happens is if he gets like a Burrow. He needs that kind of quarterback play to be that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And he didn't have that in his
True.
college days. And so like his efficiency could have been even better. Like
No, Levitt wasn't terrible though, I don't think, comparatively.
the timing was just killing me on
Yeah,
some of
yeah,
these.
yeah.
And it's like he's so bad at the contested catch point that like
One thing you mentioned about Tyson that I also agree with, by the way, that I hate is I feel like he just mistimes his jumps so much.
Yeah,
It's like
really
weird.
weird.
And bad.
It's really weird. And then he has the short arms too. So it's like
Yeah.
so easy for defenders to get in on those balls. Yeah, it is bothersome. But yeah, just to wrap up, like I think he's going in round 1 and
Yeah.
potentially early, so he could move up. Here are the round 1 receivers who I have him ahead of. It's Xavier
Okay.
Worthy, who had a decent analytical profile and decent film.
Yeah.
Matthew Golden, who had a bad analytical profile and I thought good film.
Yeah.
Quentin Johnston, good analytical profile, bad film.
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney, sort of similar.
Kadarius Toney.
Xavier Leggett, sort of similar, but honestly not that good of a profile until the very end of his career. Ricky
True.
Pearsall, basically no analytical profile, but good film.
Yes.
Those are the round 1 guys who are behind him. And
Mhm.
the round 1 guys who are just ahead of him are Jahan Dotson, who got picked 16th overall and had decent analytics, and people loved his film. I thought it was all right. I thought he could have had a much better analytical profile if the quarterback play wasn't so bad. I thought that was a decent landing spot for him, and the draft capital that's who I have right ahead of him is a top 16 pick. Like I think this is a based place to have him, and if he gets picked 10th or whatever, then we'll move him up. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I think people are like really out of control with putting him so high
Okay.
when I feel really, really good about Lemon and Tate. And it's not like these guys don't have upside. I guess maybe Lemon might not have upside if he doesn't translate the getting open consistently and getting lots of targets stuff, but Tate definitely does, man. Like he's so good at everything, running routes, catching the ball. Like he doesn't create a ton of extra yards with the ball in his hands, but he can on deep balls. Like he's big and physical and can win those and get long touchdowns. Like it just didn't he didn't get a ton of looks at Ohio State, but
Right.
on a per target basis, like it was one of the most efficient seasons that we've seen a wide receiver position out of the last 10 years.
Right. I
And he's
really like Tate. I don't want to bury him at all for fantasy just because it's not the typical profile.
I just think it's kind of crazy being even like comparing Tyson to these guys just because he got a bunch of targets at a school that was
I
not.
don't think it's just because of that though, right? Like, and I don't think that's why people are so high on him.
Well, then why is it Concepcion in that conversation? Because his film's just as good.
Yeah, he just underrated it. There's just no reason Concepcion shouldn't be in that conversation as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, let's move on and we'll see where Tyson goes. Trey Harris and then the 2 Texas receivers behind Tyson, then
Mhm.
Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana, I think is going to round 1. So I've got him, ahead of those Quentin Johnston types. But this is basically the bottom of the round 1 players. The round 2 guys that I really like: Jaden Higgins, Elijah Moore, Christian Watson, George Pickens, Ladd McConkey, Sky Moore, ahead of the Quentin Johnston types. And then after Ricky Pearsall, we've got another group of round 2, 3 players that I really liked, which was Jaden Reed, Rashee Rice, Josh Downs, Jalen Noel, Marvin Mims, and then my boy Brennan Thompson, who I think does fit into that group, but might be able to offer more. It's interesting because like he's small like those players, but he's not a slot guy.
Right.
And so draft
I
capital
was
with
shocked at some of the stuff you put out there, the way he stacks vertically. I was shocked. I was like, this dude can win on the outside somehow against college competition. Obviously, we'll see if it
SEC.
works in the NFL. But it's good. Yeah, it's as good as it can get. It's still bad relative to the NFL, but it's still as good as it can get.
Yeah, but I mean, there's clips where it's like that guy's projected to go in the NFL draft and projected to run a 4.4 or lower, and
He's
Thompson
burning them. Yeah.
makes him look like one of these guys where it's like, oh, well, that's Georgia State running, like
Yes.
yeah.
No, I know exactly what you're
he's-
talking about. He's 4 or 5
nuts.
yards separation past them.
He's nuts as a mover. Here's Thompson, and then we get into Wandale Robinson, Tank Dell. So Tank Dell was picked 3rd round, early in round 3. I'm noticing now that I've got these pick ranges messed up where sometimes they're the pick that they were in the round, and sometimes they're the pick they were overall, and it makes me so upset, dude. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I don't understand. My brain is just so fried right now with all the stuff
It's
we've
so
been doing here
much.
for draft
It's so
season.
much. I know.
Denzel Boston here. This would be by far the lowest round 1 receiver. So he's almost definitely going to move up.
If he goes round 1, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I do think he's probably going in the top 40 at least.
Mhm.
So he's probably going to bump up into, that Jaden Higgins range. I just didn't like his profile as much as Higgins or even McConkey. So it would probably be somewhere up in this range ahead of the QJ and those guys. We'll see where he goes.
Okay.
I liked his film more than QJ, but the analytics, it's just tough when the guy didn't produce, and I don't have a convincing reason to think that he will produce.
Same.
Like I don't know. I've really had a tough time with this profile.
Same.
Surratt, we haven't talked about much today, but we have talked about him in the other receiver shows. Dan and I both liked him a lot. It's kind of like Boston, where we don't know that he'll be able to do the stuff they did in college
Right.
at the pros. I don't think he's as good of an athlete as Boston,
Nope.
but I think he's probably a better route runner.
Yes.
And just has a really, really good feel for timing and space, like even
Yep.
better than Boston's.
That's his superpower in my mind. Timing.
Was definitely more productive, but again, was in a way better position to succeed.
True.
Did you see? I sent out a tweet where it was like the off-target rates on deep throws for all the prospects.
You're like, this is
And
actually a Mendoza tweet.
It was like at the top, you've got 42% Casey Concepcion, and I think Boston's was like 40% or 30% or
Off
something.
target. Yeah.
Yeah, off target rate on deep throws. And then the lowest non-Surratt number is like 20%. And then Surratt's rate is 5%. It's like, what?
Well, a lot of that is like these back shoulder balls are counted as deep targets, which they
Yeah.
are technically, kind of.
I mean, it has to be 15 or more yards down the field.
Right. So they technically are, even though they are probably just at like 15 to 16 to 17 yards down the field. And Mendoza just dimes those balls up over and over again. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, he was eating good, man.
He was eating good. But Surratt's a weird one, man. I'll tell you why I think he's one of the weirdest ones in the class for fantasy. I can't tell if the NFL is going to draft him in round 2 or round 5.
Yeah.
And I think it could be anywhere in that range. They could be like, this isn't going to work. The athleticism doesn't translate. He's not worth even drafting. Or they could be like, I don't care. He looks good. He's going to do what I want for him. He's going to get open. He's going to be on time. He's going to do all the right things. He's a second round pick for me.
Yeah. I do just want to let people know that I did put out a Fernando Mendoza profile on Monday. If you missed that,
Watch the Dozer profile.
It's a good, it's good. It's for looking at him for fantasy, comparing him to some other quarterbacks. There's some really interesting comparisons there. Zach Wilson is one who shows up a lot.
Ugh.
And I think that, sure, you could be like alarmed by that, but it's like, man, Mendoza, first off, doesn't have quite as much jackassery as Wilson does to his game, to be honest. There is a little bit of it, though. Like the reason that he's popping up as comparable is because of the bad sacks and stuff that he does, where he just takes, he's both those guys have great arms and good athleticism, and they just kind of feel like they can do stuff. It seems like sometimes they put on the cape and think that it's time for them to be heroes, and it's like, you're not quite Drake May, you just aren't. And sometimes we need you to just get the ball out.
Not quite, not even close to Drake May.
Yeah. And so it's interesting, like that was a comparison in addition to all the good ones. But the just very clear difference is Zach Wilson got drafted to the freaking New York Jets, and Mendoza gets to go play with Clint Kubiak and Brock Bowers and everything,
Sure.
like the offensive line is a little scary. But he gets to go there, be there with Kirk Cousins, and just so many good influences. It feels like, in addition to, like I said, not being quite as high on the JA scale.
And the key thing for them is not like, yes, I am scared of the fact that I don't trust Mendoza yet against pressure, and Zach Wilson was horrific against pressure. And the problem for him is he played with this amazing offensive line at BYU, and there was no competition. Similar somewhat to Indiana, but the difference is frame. Like Zach Wilson's frame plagued him. When you're that small, you're just not going to make it in the NFL. Mendoza has the frame.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point too. It was just the stats were similar. Not this is a measurable comparison like some of the other ones we talked about. Surratt, wrapping this up here, I think is my wide receiver 50 in this stacked rankings dating back to 2021. So I really am pretty high on this profile. I think there's a decent chance that if he gets round 2 or 3 draft capital, that he could be a productive player within the next 2 or 3 years. Then we get to some of these high upside swings. And so it's Chris Bell.
So funny, man.
Kyle Williams was picked early in round 3. Really liked his route running, and his analytical profile was okay, but kind of like these other players, it didn't come till later in his career. But man, the route running was great. The athleticism is decent for sure. And so it's a similar range for me where it's Chris Bell, Kyle Williams, Ted Hurst, Bryce Lance, A.D. Mitchell, and Alec Pierce were round 2 picks. Jermaine Burton round 3. Nico Collins round 3 is obviously the clearest player to emerge from this group where it's like, there is some kind of stud potential here,
Yeah.
But they're not picked early. They don't have great profiles and everything. There's some holes in their profiles. But Nico's emerged. Alec Pierce has emerged. Puka Nacua clearly has emerged. But a lot of these players don't ever make it out. Here's Torrey Horton, who would be much higher. And if it was just based on film, he would be up here in the Josh Downs, Jalen Noel, Jaden Reed range, but he went in round 5. Did you have something you wanted to add?
That group of players is so funny to me. It was like 10 names, and I was in on every single one of those names. Those are all my guys. And I actually feel like there's more hits than we thought, taking out the new guys. Like A.D. Mitchell was one of my guys. I wouldn't say he's a hit, but I think he's shown some flashes at the NFL level. Alec Pierce, who I loved out of Cincinnati and didn't understand why he was falling in the draft and ended up going higher than people expected. He's a hit, right? Jermaine Burton, total miss for me. Loved his tape. Just a knucklehead off the field, can't get on. Collins, an obvious make. Marshall, one of my biggest misses in recent years. Tillman, I don't know because of the concussions and what's happened, but he actually looked like the best of what Tennessee has to offer. The only receiver who could actually do receiver things, and then just so many injuries. But it's just funny to me that I have a type clearly when it comes to these players.
Yeah, Cedric Tillman's pretty good. So it's Nico and then Tillman and then Terrace Marshall and then Puka Nacua, round 5 pick, Torrey Horton, round 5 pick. And then we get back into more of the round 3 and 2 picks that I maybe wasn't quite as high on. I did like Jalen Tolbert a lot, but all his analytics came to a small school. He was a round 3 pick. But then it's like Keon Coleman, Jonathan Mingo. I did not like those guys. And that's where Zachariah Branch comes in.
Yep.
Jalen Polk as well, where it's like round 2, sure, you're going to twist my arm. I'll admit that they're round 2 picks, but I don't really want any part of it. Isaac Tesla, round 3. Tylan Wallace, round 4. I like those guys a lot. I think it's Tylan Wallace.
Tylan Wallace. I actually liked him a lot coming out, too.
He was a stud. Jack Besh, round 2. Pat Bryant, round 3. Romeo Dobbs, round 4. Alec Iomanner and Jalen Royals, round 4. Jalen McMillan, round 3. And then we get Malachi Fields and Stribling out of Ole Miss that we talked about. These guys might push up because they might be around 2 picks.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to see how NFL teams evaluate these two. If they get around 2-ish capital, then yeah, they're pushing up near that Coleman Mingo range. We'll see where they go.
I think Stribling should be for sure higher. I mean, how many times have we seen a player at his size with 4.37 speed? And the ability to win vertically. It's that's a different profile, I think. I mean, it's kind of similar to the Pierce profile and all those guys.
I was like, it's kind of reminds me of Mitchell and Pierce and Burton and those guys. Right. I think Burton was a better player.
Burton was better tape, but worse athlete.
So who I have below Fields and Stribling is a group of guys that I really liked in terms of late round guys. And then I've got some really weird profiles I didn't know what to make of. So I really liked Khalil Shakir in round 5, Malik Washington in round 6, Keandre Lambert Smith in round 5, because I liked the landing spot a lot for him. And then it was Michael Wilson, who had terrible analytics, but was an interesting kind of bully ball player. He went around
film guy.
He went around 3. I was a little bit low on him relative to consensus. And then Savion Williams went around 3, and I was intrigued by him, but didn't know how he fit as an NFL player.
I like Savion so much.
If he'd ever matter for fantasy, which heading into year 2, depending on what they do in the draft, it might be Savion time already.
I love Savion Williams coming out of TCU. I felt like he could be a good route runner with the right NFL coaching.
Jalen Hyatt and Luke McCaffrey are down here. They're the lowest round 3 picks that I've got. I was not super into them. I thought there were some flashes to McCaffrey. But he kind of reminds me of some of these other guys where I was like, I just don't know exactly what this is as an NFL player. Jacob Cowling, I really, really liked in around 4 range as a speed threat. And I'm a little nervous that that's him, Jordan Watkins. Some of those guys do pop up occasionally as similar analytically to Brennan Thompson. And so if Thompson were to fall to round 5 or something, then he would move down into this range.
Interesting.
That would suck. We'll see where he goes. So Chris Brazzell is in this range. I've got him in between Cowling and McCaffrey, above Trey Palmer, who was an interesting deep threat, but he ended up falling pretty late in the draft. Parker Washington, who didn't have good analytics overall, but had some flashes. I really liked his film. But again,
Good tape at Penn State.
round 6. And so I've got Brazel ahead of those guys. And then below them is the rest of the class that we
Okay.
talked about today. So to me, Jeremy Bernard is kind of like Parker Washington. But if he gets drafted earlier, then he'll move up these ranks. Same with Antonio Williams. Like he's better than Luke McCaffrey. He's not the same type of player as Khalil Shakir. He's maybe like Jalen McMillan or something.
I see him more.
I don't love
Parker
that.
Washington type.
I just think he's I don't know if he's
Like
not as
McMillan
physical
to me
as,
is more of like a Jeremy Bernard.
he's not as physical as Parker Washington. I feel like he's a better route runner, has some verticality to his game a little bit. Like that's why I thought of McMillan.
Okay, I see that. Yeah.
And so these guys could move up the rankings. I mean, we're at the bottom here. There's not very many round 2, 3 picks, you know.
Right.
So like if they get in that range, they're gonna move up. So that's all to say that these are fluid. And we went through the rankings earlier, but I feel like we've said this a lot, especially at wide receiver and tight end. And really the whole draft class, like it's kind of jumbled up this year. There's really not very much difference between a lot of these players. And so it's important to know what you've got and how they might fit and everything, because there might be some pretty drastic shifts after the draft in terms of the rankings. But that doesn't necessarily change who the player is, right? Like even if Antonio Williams ends up moving up to tight end or wide receiver 10 or something, because Skylar Bell and Brazel and all these guys get crap landing spots, and we're just like, I don't want to bet on that. So he becomes wide receiver 10. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's a like significantly better bet. He's still Antonio Williams. He's still someone that we think is probably unlikely to matter for fantasy purposes because of the way the modern NFL is trending. Doubt he'll ever play more than 60% of the snaps for a team. Doubt he'll ever be more than like a 20% target share guy, like pretty limited ceiling. So I don't know. Rankings, we always are kind of like, more interested in tiers and understanding the individual players within them. But especially this year, it does feel really relevant.
Agreed.
All right. I'm curious what you think after moving through that. And like now that we've done this practice twice, are you feeling any better about the wide receiver class and the depth of this group of rookies as a whole? I know your thoughts on tight end and everything, but we've had about a month now to really sink our teeth into this. And I'm curious how you feel about this 26 class.
No, I actually really like this 2026 wide receiver class. Versus, it's almost the opposite for me fully about tight end versus this class. I think we're going to see a lot of people emerge as fantasy factors and NFL factors out of this class. I just don't think you usually typically see the athletes that we're seeing in this middle range for wide receivers, whether it's Bryce Lance or Ted Hurst or Chris Bell or even Stribling down there running a 4.37 at that size. Even like the two guys we mentioned that you think, you don't see a huge fantasy ceiling for, which I can get with Antonio Williams and Jeremy Bernard. They're also better athletes than you usually see for that profile. It's just a slew of great athletes. You go down the bowl, Jeff Caldwell, what if he develops into something with that athletic profile? The two guys I brought up, Colby Young and Sturdivant, however you pronounce that name. I still will never get there. Like there's just much better athletes versus NFL competition. And some will never work, right? It just depends on the NFL coaching and how well they translate to that and what they can develop as receivers, as complete players. But I like to bet on traits, man. And there are so many more bet on traits players at receiver than I can remember down the board in most recent classes that we go into. To be quite honest with you, there's a lot more down the board talent. Like some of these guys, man, with the profiles they have athletically speaking, just traits wise, would be late first round picks in some classes or early second round picks.
That's really interesting. That was one of my questions on the show sheet. I just want to ask you now, and then we're going to hit a break and get back here and talk about the 6 players who we think are most likely to go in round 1, that are projected to go in round 1, and talk about their landing spots. But in addition to those players, I'm curious if you have a receiver or receivers who you think feel like most likely to maybe sneak into round 1. Because you said in other classes you think that they might. I think this class is not one that people feel great about, and there's some redundancy with a lot of the positions that are kind of deep at the back end of that, in that like 20 to 50 range, And so if people feel better about a specific type of receiver, they might reach for them and then wait a little bit for cornerback or wait for edge or whatever it might be. Maybe safety. There's some guys who they might be able to get a little bit later. I'm curious, tight end for sure. Like I'm curious what you think, if there's anybody who stands out that like Could it be Ted Hurst? Or, I mean, probably not Bryce Lance at his age, but like, is there anybody you think could sneak into round one? Stribling, we've talked
the
about.
age might kill like a Bryce Lance, but like the athletic profile's there. I think you're right, though. He probably doesn't sneak in because of the age. Ted Hurst, I just think won't do it. Won't sneak in because of a lot of reasons. But no, not on Ted Hurst. Chris Bell, if it wasn't for the ACL, I think could have, but that kind of takes that off the board. Stribling, probably not. No, I don't necessarily think that. And I'll say this, like I saw in our comment section right here. I never know how to pronounce this. Pahqui, Pahqy, whatever that is. He's like, I hate this class. Well, I get it. Like the top of this class, I don't love. We don't have our usual neighbors types at the top of the class. And in the end, we are kind of looking for like the top of the class players mostly. But some of this, I'm just a big fan of the depth. Like these players that I guess have some knocks, the age with Lance or the competition level with Hurst, a few of the other players we ran through that I really like, even Brennan Thompson, like usually don't see players like that 4.26. They're going to go in like day, 2, late, maybe even 3, potentially there's just a lot of athletic traits-based outliers for this class in the middle area that I think if they get the right coaching and the right situation can be a lot better than some of these players that have come into the draft in recent years.
My bet is Ted Hurst. I actually think that
Ted Hurst, so I'm good with that.
Probably the most likely is Stribling, but my bet is that Ted Hurst goes in round one just because I think
that'd be sick.
That would set the internet on fire because he's just so big and his highlights are so fun. I think either of those two could. Bell, yeah, if he didn't have the torn ACL, I really do think would be a sleeper to go in that range.
Yes.
And man, I'll just manifest it. Brennan Thompson. I mean, if Xavier Leggett can be a round one pick with a 5th-year breakout, why can't Brennan Thompson be a round one pick with a 4th-year breakout on the SEC and a clearer skill set in terms of translating to real life football?
And that's the point I'm kind of trying to make. Why this class I like better, because you have one class where a guy goes round 1, the other class guy's going to go round 3, and it's not that different of a profile. I mean.
Who doesn't want 4.26 speed? You know, who doesn't want like legitimate 4.26 speed that translates? Like anytime you put Brennan Thompson on the field, the defense is scared.
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah, exactly. Right.
All right, we're going to take another break. We'll be right back and dig into the best potential landing spots for fantasy football for Makai Lemon, Carnell Tate, and the other 4 receivers who are projected to go in round 1.
You think you understand how this business works, but you don't.
I now know why Mommy was so stressed.
What's the plan here?
Landman. New season now streaming. Only on Paramount Plus.
You need a hug?
You need a fist?
Crutch, crutch, crutch.
Crutch, crutch.
Crutch, you need anything.
I do have one question.
We didn't mean right now. When you need your sports news all the time,
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ hits every highlight from all the sports that matter to you.
JJ, we appreciate your time breaking it down.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With the plays you missed
What a finish at the final round of play.
and analysis to give you an edge.
All we need is 20 points.
I was shaking in my boots.
Texas, Ohio State, who wins this game?
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, streaming free 24/7.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars. What a difference she has made.
The question is, can you handle it?
The crowd here feels electric.
Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
You think you understand how this business works, but you don't.
I now know why Mommy was so stressed.
What's the plan here?
Landman. New season now streaming. Only on Paramount Plus.
I know that we're an hour and a half into the video, but I just now want to acknowledge the fact that our title is "Your Wide Receiver Rankings Are Completely Wrong." I totally forgot that that's what I told them to make it. Just go so a little more controversial here. So Dan, who do you think people are the most wrong about their wide receiver rankings? Is it Concepcion? Is it Denzel Boston? Obviously, it's Brennan Thompson. What do you think?
It's Concepcion for me. I'm willing to go all the way up to 2, maybe 1 for him. The profile is so damn good. Like, I don't really understand why he's not viewed as a better NFL option, and I more so don't understand why he's not viewed as a better fantasy option. Like, this is what works: post-catch explosiveness, post-catch creativity, ability to win over the top, the ability to win with a release package in the red zone. This is what works. The NFL, and then the over routes, the ability to separate on horizontal. The only thing that sucks about his profile is like that he doesn't look the ball. Like he does have a weird clap at the ball. Like he doesn't have great catch technique. All right, great. We can work on that. Like that's one thing you can improve. You know what you can improve? Post catch ability and all those three things that I brought up before this, and the strength and the ability to use his hands to separate. I love his strength profile.
He's a dog.
He's a dog. And I apologize. I had to have a mid-show snack. I haven't eaten all day, so I treated myself with chomps. You eat these chomps? I love these chomps.
I got no idea what chomps are.
I don't know what a chomps is.
No, it sounds like dog food.
No, you got to get on chomps. These are the chomps. They're beef sticks. 10 grams of protein, 100 calories, not an ounce of sugar. Got to get on the chomp game.
All right. Dan's chomping. Okay, Casey Concepcion. Yeah, that's an easy answer. I'm gonna go with J. Michael Sturdivant. I think people are the most wrong about. That's my wide receiver that is entirely my
I love
idea.
that.
Yeah, watch the film. Y'all are being lazy. Get you some J. Michael Sturdivant in your life because he's way too low in your rankings.
The chat is lighting me up for the chomps. I love it.
All right. Best landing spots for Mr. Blintikoff winner Makai Lemon out of USC. Probably a top 10, top 12, top 15 pick, something like that. I know a lot of people around Kansas City are interested in Makai Lemon to the Chiefs. So I'll start there. What do you think about Makai Lemon as the heir apparent to Rashee Rice and Andy Reid's offense? You feel good about that one?
You want? Oh, I'm going. Okay, I thought you want to give me your best landing spot, so I'm just going to go by the team you mentioned. So yes, Chiefs.
You like that?
Yeah, I think Rashee Rice is gone. There's not a chance they re-sign him, given the all-field stuff. So there's a good spot for him, though. It's not. It's a different role. What?
Not the best spot, though.
Not for me, no.
Okay, so we've got Washington. I think is where it starts, where the earliest we could realistically see him go. And I think that is a really intriguing spot as a catch and run complement with Terry McLaurin scaring the defense deep. Jaden Daniels obviously likes the slot fade. New Orleans could be a really good spot. Pick 8. Kansas City pick 9. Giants pick 10. I haven't heard any Makai Lemon to the Giants buzz really. What's your take on that?
Highly doubtful that's happening. They did bring him in for a top 30 visit, which is something interesting, I suppose, but there's just been zero buzz. I mean, Joe Shane literally he flew down to just 2 total pro days, and one of them was freaking Jordyn Tyson, and then he took him out to a private dinner. If we're going receiver, it feels like it's going to be JT.
Okay. Dolphins pick 11 would be interesting.
No chance he gets injured on the MetLife turf, by the way. No chance.
You talk about Tyson?
Yeah. Why are we bringing a guy cutting as hard as he cuts onto that crappy turf?
Right. Dolphins pick 11. Lots of opportunity, but maybe not all that many dropbacks. Right? I don't know if that would actually be a good spot for him when there are a lot of potential better spots. Dallas picked 12. I don't think that they would go receiver. I think they really like Ryan Flournoy and some of their ancillary pieces that they can mix in there. But man, it would be pretty fun. Can you imagine him and Lamb and Pickens together?
Lamb and Pickens, and then it's pretty insane.
Rams, same kind of idea. I don't think that they really need to add a slot when they're going to more and more of this 3 tight end stuff and they've got their clear guys in place. And it's it feels like right now they're locked in with what they're doing offensively. But man, if they went Lemon, kind of like Dallas, it's well, now that's interesting because
that's my number 1 spot. The Rams.
They're investing in him here.
Not even that. I just think he's perfect for what they do. The tight splits with everybody around the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. And it's such a good offense. And the fit there is really good. I'm really high on Dallas, but I get the Rams being a higher upside spot for you with Stafford and just problems that they would create with those 3.
Yeah, it's just the way they run their scheme. I'd love to see him in those tight splits.
All right. I don't think he would ever drop this low, but you never know. So I've got the Jets at 16. Maybe they move up, and then the Vikings at 18. Maybe they move up. So you've got the Rams as the best spot. Anybody else ahead of Kansas City for you?
Sorry, I lost track of this quick second with a funny comment in the chat. We're talking about Lemon, better spot.
Anybody else that you think would be a better spot than the Kansas City Chiefs?
No,
Washington?
No.
Okay.
I am intrigued to see our expectation for that Washington offense. I don't know where it's going to go from a schematic standpoint. I'm very intrigued to get more information on that.
I've got the Rams, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Washington Commanders as the best spots then for Lemon. I think, I mean, if he goes 7 to Washington, like he's shooting up the ranks, and
Yeah, that's fair.
It's not only because of the fit with Jordyn and the target opportunities and everything. It's like also 7, like that's really meaningful. Tedro McMillan went 8th last year. There's not very many receivers who've gone that early. Chris Olave was pick 11. Garrett Wilson was pick 10. All right. What's the worst one here? Where would you really hate to see him go? Like, is it Miami or, I mean, I don't know. Like most of these spots feel pretty good, which I just,
safe.
I just feel pretty good about Lemon for fantasy.
Same. I don't know if I have a spot that I wouldn't.
I think
want
Miami is the one that I wouldn't really want.
I'm a little higher than you on Miami because I agree. Like in theory, they shouldn't drop back a lot, but if they're getting just blown out every game, there's just like a lot of garbage time potential for him to just like check down to Lemon or take the free square to Lemon a bunch.
Yeah. Okay, Carnell Tate. This one feels a little bit more landing spot dependent, right?
Yes.
You really want him to get paired up with the right quarterback, the right system.
Yes.
So I think the earliest he could go is Cleveland at 6, and then it's 7 Washington. It would be rough. Washington, New Orleans, Kansas City. The Giants are in play. Let me get your temperature check on that. Have you heard much on Tate to the Giants?
There was early connection. I think Dan Jeremiah mentioned it, but it's been nothing of late. I'd personally rather see Tate than Tyson. I think it's a better gamble, but we'll see. I don't think so.
Yeah, I would definitely rather see him there. Him and Neighbors together seems like would be really, really cool.
It's a perfect pairing. And also, by the way, if you look at just what happened last year and at Ole Miss, like, sure, Jackson Dart wasn't very efficient on as a vertical thrower last year, but he damn well tried a bunch. And he really loves to throw downfield. He reads high to low, Jackson Dart. It's one of the aspects of the way he plays quarterback that I like the most. And like there would be so many opportunities for Carnell Tate on the outside, single coverage. Like we know what's going to happen. The defense is going to be focused on the million bodies we have moving around in line of scrimmage in motion, Patrick Ricard, whatever it may be, likely. And then Neighbors, cloud coverage on Neighbors. And then it's just one-on-one Tate for a quarterback like Dart, who showed such a knack and ability to just pre-snap, understand where his one-on-ones were, read the safety post-snap, and take those shots. The problem was a lot of those shots last year were to Darius Slayton, who dropped a million of them, and then a bunch of them at the beginning of the year were to little Jordan Humphrey, who literally just was running like 4-9 type routes out there, like 5-0 to 4-9 type routes. Like so, Carnell Tate would, I feel like, be the best pairing for the Giants if they wanted to go receiver.
Okay, so I feel like we've got a lot of decent potential pairings here. I'm going to throw them on the screen. It's going to be a lot of teams, and we'll end up ranking these. But first, what are the bad ones? So it's the Browns, the Dolphins.
Commanders would be amazing too with Jaden's style.
Even the
Saints, I love.
Even the Jets feels neutral to me.
Because Gino, we still have our own faith in Gino.
Between Gino and the line, I think there's an okay shot that we can get some of the timing-based stuff that we need. And he doesn't have to be the all-the-time wide receiver one that gets the most attention. That's clearly going to be Garrett Wilson.
We're going to be so much higher on this Jets offense, I can already tell, than we should be, or than consensus is going to have. We're going to be viewed as idiots on this. I don't think either of us have quit Gino yet.
I mean, I mostly have. I just don't think it would be a like abject disaster like going to the Browns.
That's my point. Yeah, I don't think he's good, but I don't think he's as bad as people think he is. I think it's mostly just the Raiders' O-line was so bad last year.
So I think the Dolphins and the Browns would scare me for Carnell Tate. In those situations, we might see Concepcion and or Tyson move ahead of him. I don't know if that would be right necessarily because I do feel like he's just a rock solid long-term prospect. But I mean, sometimes those players just get put in the wrong spot, and it just takes a long time for it to happen at all. And then if there's anything that throws their career off, then you never get it.
Right.
Let's sort out the best ones then. What I have on the screen are Rams, Cowboys, Chiefs, Saints, Commanders, Giants. Do you have anybody who stands out as best or worst from this group? How do you think you would order this?
Okay, best for me, I'm still going to stick with my Tyler Shuck Saints.
Saints best.
I love my Tyler Shuck combo.
Wow, that would be really cool. Him and Olave. I think the Saints might be near the bottom for me. I think that makes sense because the line, and it's just so much confidence in Shuck.
Maybe it's too much confidence in Shuck. But God, I just feel like he could win so well with that quarterback skill set. Now, I'd say for me, the top two are actually Saints and Commanders. Those are my two favorites. Dart would come in next. He's willing, like I said, a willing thrower downfield. And he throws intermediates a lot. So I think those three would be my favorite.
You're choosing the worst offenses.
That's what we think. But
I think the Cowboys are really interesting, and might be an opportunity to buy him at a little bit of a discount because people are going to be worried about the target competition. But it's like, what if they draft him and they're like, all right, enough of this George Pickens stuff, like something like that. And I think him with Dak would just be so nice. I would love to see him I just feel better about Dak than I do with Shuck or, Dart. I like Dart. I like Jayden, but like, I know exactly what we get with Dak delivering that ball to him. What do you think about the Rams? I know you've mentioned that like Stafford would be the dream quarterback for him.
Yeah, I think the Stafford is dream quarterback for Lemon. For Tate, he is a great quarterback for him, but I want to see Tate lined up like on the outs. Guess he would still get looks. Okay, I like that one. I think I could say I like that one a lot too. I mean, the more I look at it, there's not that many horrible landing spots for his skill set either, besides the Browns and possibly the Dolphins.
That's exciting, right? Like I
love
hate
Willis that much, by the way. I feel like Willis might be able to do this thing. We'll see though.
Yeah, but I mean, compared to these other ones,
it's bad.
Yeah, that would bother me a little bit if he was in Miami.
Sure.
Okay, that makes me feel better because I felt like he's pretty fragile, where he needs to be in the right spot. But there's a surprising number of teams picking in the top 15 that actually have pretty decent infrastructure, where you feel decently optimistic about the offensive line and quarterback. Like even the Jets and the Saints have been bad or whatever mostly, but like they have pretty good offensive lines right now if they stay healthy.
True.
All right, so we'll go. I mean, man, I don't think we can put Commanders in this top 3. I'm gonna go. I'll leave Saints. I think Chiefs would be awesome. People have said too many mouths to feed. I don't know. They don't have anyone who can beat man coverage on the whole damn team. Like this is such a different skill set to me, and I think it would be meaningful. And if they take him this high, then it's like they clearly. I mean, they still think that they're in win now mode. I think. I don't know. I don't want to speak for Brett Veach, but like it certainly seems that way. Travis Kelce just signed back. Like, I think that would be really encouraging. Like, if they decide to use this early pick when they have pick 29 too, and there's receivers that they could get there.
Right.
If they use this top 10 pick on him, which they never get a top 10 pick, and they use their one top 10 pick on this guy, I think that would say a lot. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah. I think on paper it looks great. The Chiefs are a weird team to me, man. I've like oddly soured on Reid's style of offense and Mahomes, generally speaking, which is crazy because I used to be the highest person ever on Mahomes, and I used to always swear by Reid. And it's been some bad years watching the Chiefs offense for me.
Chat's killing me right now. So one, it's funny to me that they're like Rice is the one, and it's like Malik Neighbors is the one. Like we're talking about other teams where there is Chris Olave is the one. Those guys are
Rice is not the one. Rice is just there, and that's the problem. Like Rice is the one because this offense is broken in my mind. Like
Rice gets targets, but they're in no way related to the targets that hypothetically would be going to Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate's never going to be doing the stuff that Rice is doing.
What happened to this offense? Like, why does it look the way it looks?
They don't have
now?
Carnell Tate. I don't know. Like I said, none of their guys beat man coverage.
The bigger problem is Mahomes just doesn't throw well anymore on the vertical plane.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
what happened to him?
I don't know, man. You always ask me this, and it's like, I don't know. I haven't talked to him. I don't know.
I'm wondering, and I need you to know, Jacob. I will continue to always ask you this because you watch more Mahomes than me. Like, why is he not the Mahomes I remember?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Matt Nagy was the problem is from the chat. I'll go with that. I'm
Could
fine
it
with
all
that.
just be Nagy? No.
Good luck, New York Giants. The other thing that cracked me up from the chat is that Jacob's going to crash out when Tyson goes to the Chiefs, and it's like, for real. Oh my gosh. I love that Dan and I are just like both terrified that our teams might take Jordyn Tyson, and like he might actually be good. He definitely has the potential to be good, but man, if you pick him that high, he has to be good. He has to be that player, and he has to stay healthy.
Yeah,
that would be so scary. Okay, so yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting landing spots for Tate. Let's move on to Tyson. Best landing spots for Tyson for fantasy. So now we're getting to a more specific skill set, I think. I think Tate could succeed in basically any situation. He doesn't need the quarterback play to like elevate his game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are some situations where Tyson might be asked to do something that might result in him being a flat out bust. And that would basically be like, we need you to be our X receiver. You're 6'2". that's what you do. And it's like, I don't know if that's going to work out. Like, I don't
Right.
think that he really showed much when it comes to beating press coverage. And I think that NFL cornerbacks are going to get film on this guy and be really, really, really physical with him. And I don't know if he has the route running to consistently deal with that. I don't know if he has the length to consistently deal with those types of situations and win and contested catch situations. So we'll see. His landing spot range is really wide. I think it could be as early as like pick 8 to New Orleans or maybe Kansas City or the Giants or something like that.
Yeah, 5 with the Giants in play.
That's so crazy. Oh man, I'm so
Yeah.
excited for this draft. We have no idea what's going to happen.
I know. It's awesome. We don't even know past 1. That's never seen it like this. We have 1 pick we know. That's it.
Yeah. So Kansas City would feel like a really bad spot to me because they do need an X receiver. And if they made him that, I just don't think that would go well, like I said. I don't know exactly what they'll do if they try to do him the manufacturer touch stuff. That doesn't really seem like it fits his skill set very well either. Where he feels like he fits is somewhere like New Orleans, where it's like there's a clear guy in place that's the number 1 receiver. It's an offensive coach who I really trust and who moves his players around a lot and understands how to get them free releases and stuff like that. Man, he was cooking with Rashid Shaheed before the trade, like getting him a lot of free releases. And I think we could see them use Tyson in a similar kind of way where he could work off the ball, off the line of scrimmage a little bit more.
Sure.
I would really like that. Dallas could be a fit. That could be cool. Again, where like they've got an X receiver, they've got a big boy in there. The Rams have an X receiver. I would feel good about those spots. Carolina, if he fell to pick 19, they've got an X receiver, and so he doesn't have to do that.
I would hate that fit. That would be one of the worst for me.
How come?
I hate the Carolina Panthers passing game for fantasy football.
Just doesn't produce enough.
I watched it a bunch. We watched it last year for BTB. It just looks terrible out there to me. I don't know how it improves. I think they need massive jumps in their pass protection, which I don't see coming this year. And I don't know for sure if Bryce Young is the guy who gives you a good fantasy. I thought McMillan was amazing last year when I watched him, and he never did anything really. I mean, he did enough, but he didn't really do what he could have done because of that offense in my mind.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, it would be for Tyson to matter there, it would take improvement from Bryce for sure.
And the pass blocking mostly.
Yeah, and they lost a little bit there. But yeah, the offense might look a little bit different under a different play designer this year.
Yeah.
Bryce could get better. I think I agree with you, but it's like you can kind of tell yourself a story where maybe it gets better, you know, and maybe adding Tyson.
People are telling that story to themselves. Yeah.
And we saw like once they were healthy in the playoffs, that Jalen Coker and T-Mac are pretty tough to deal with. And if you get Tyson added there too,
right,
it's a really, really exciting. That would be a really exciting group of young players that are up and coming and should just keep getting better. I don't think it'd be the worst spot, but to me, the most important thing is that he doesn't have to. It's not I just don't want it to be a Keon Coleman thing where it's like, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. And then team's like, we need it to work so bad. You have to be the X. And it's like, man, you just threw him to the wolves. Like, there was no shot that was going to work. So yeah, I think the best spots are probably the Saints and the Cowboys, but I would be pretty, maybe the Cowboys or the Rams would take a shot on them, but I would be pretty surprised. I think Lemon is more likely there. Then there's a lot of spots that do kind of scare me. What do you think about, like, if he's, I don't know. Like, I'm curious, these teams at the back end, like I don't think he would ever slip to 41 where Cincinnati picks, but if Cincinnati were to trade up or something like that, I think that would be like, all of a sudden Tyson is, you can put him at wide receiver 1 at that point, right?
Right.
Is that kind of where you're at with it? Like if he were to go there, I'm just trying to think of different outcomes here where it's like, that would move him up. Like New Orleans, even, I know, like as high as you are on New Orleans, like that would probably, would you move him up as high as like 2 or something? Like if Casey Concepcion doesn't end up in a great spot?
No, I don't think that's my favorite fit for him personally.
How come?
I think Shuck was winning with like outbreakers and intermediate vertical stuff. And what I want from Tyson is like the quick wins in breakers type of quarterback, which I think is more of just like a process. Like I don't think Chuck is quite there yet from a processing standpoint to take advantage of that area of the field. That's not where I saw Olave winning over and over again.
Yeah. I don't know why.
But like he'll win in quick game, Tyson. Like
Yeah.
right, like he'll win on like just they mostly ran quick game, the Saints. So
That's what I was thinking. Is like I don't know why Tyson wouldn't be able to do the outbreaking stuff too. Maybe just a frame issue. Like I think you could get him in those motion, like pre-snap motion looks where he's breaking out, and he would be really a handful to deal with.
True. No, he can run. I mean, he's a great separator with his footwork and with his ability to just change direction. So I don't hate it. Saints is good.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Concepcion then. I started at pick 16 with the Jets. I guess he could go earlier than that, but it would be a pretty big surprise. Jets, I think, would be a great fit. I think him and Garrett Wilson together would be really cool.
Yeah.
Panthers, how do you feel about that? Just same thing, like just don't want pass catchers going there?
God, I definitely don't want to see Casey Concepcion in that team.
Yeah. So that's the thing is like once you get into this range, there's actually some pretty gross fits. So like,
I know.
if you don't like Carolina, I think that's fair. Pittsburgh is pick 21. Philadelphia is pick 23. Yeah. So those are scary. But like Dallas at pick 20 could be really cool.
Yeah.
Cleveland at 24. I actually think Concepcion might be okay there. You don't want your guy going to Cleveland, right? But
no.
There's a chance that he could go there and get like a 23% target share or something. Like,
yeah, that's true. You get that upside, but then it's taken away from Fannin. I don't know if that's even going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know on the Cleveland.
If Deshaun Watson plays, I'll have a little bit more faith.
Oh gosh,
it's
all right,
as
let's move on.
disgusting as that sounds.
Chicago at pick 25.
For reasons. No,
pair him up with Luther Burden.
Horrible. Hate that.
I don't know. I think he would just basically slide into DJ Moore role, and I think that'd be interesting. That. Okay.
That's no volume. That's no predictability. I don't want that.
Fair enough. I don't think that we are likely to be getting a lot of volume from him in his rookie season anyway. So to me, it's just like pair him up with. I mean, if we get that kind of conviction call from Ben Johnson, where he just went wide receiver and tight end round 1 and 2, and then he does it again, that would be pretty interesting to me. And would probably say something about Roma Dunze. Buffalo pick 26, San Francisco pick 27. So San Fran, I think, is your favorite spot, right?
San Fran is and has been my favorite spot for Casey Concepcion.
Ahead of Dallas?
Ahead of everything. I love him in that system. I love him basically playing the Brandon Ayuk role, but maybe even better.
What about to the Chiefs at 29? Still San Fran?
Yeah, I don't want to see him on the Chiefs.
Really?
I've lost my faith in the Chiefs offense, man. The Worthy thing has really messed with me. I don't know what I'm watching anymore when I watch the Chiefs. Everything looks around the line of scrimmage, dump to Bryce here, dump to Kelsey there. Mahomes tries a deep target. It's never on target. What is going on with this? They can't run the ball at all. And even though they have good offensive linemen with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, like what happened there? I don't know. And I can't figure it out. I'm not smart enough.
So KC's pick 29. I would be into that.
I want Minnesota. Minnesota would intrigue me for KC Concepcion.
Okay. I didn't even think about that. They pick like, what is it, 14th or 18th or something?
Yeah, they're in that 18th range where everyone just gives them Thienen, the safety out of Oregon. Everyone just thinks that's going to happen.
Minnesota pick 18. The Jordan Addison stuff's a little weird. That could be interesting.
I just love the idea of him running the KOC in breakers in the intermediate range.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, I mean, if he goes 18 to Minnesota, that would be better than Kansas City. That would be a really good spot.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily love it with Kyler, so it's probably
that's an issue.
Yeah, but
that's
I mean,
not their long-term quarterback.
I don't think so. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so Miami at pick 30 could be an option. We'll see if he's lasting this long. I guess the Patriots are just definitely getting AJ Brown or whatever, but if that weren't to happen, I think he'd be an interesting fit there.
Right.
Could potentially become the wide receiver 1. Seattle picks 32nd. I wouldn't really like that fit that much.
Oh, I would hate that.
Tennessee at 35 could be a really good fit. I don't love it.
Should work.
I think him and Cam Ward would be cool together, though.
That's what I'm thinking. Him and Cam Ward, part of it should work.
Yeah, it might be more of a long-term play there if that happened.
I don't love the fit in Dable's scheme, though.
Oh. And then you've got the Raiders are 36. The Giants are 37. Either of those teams could be looking for a receiver. Again, Cincinnati at 41 could be, but you got to think they're probably mostly going after defense.
Yeah. They're not going to take him.
It would be fun.
That would be fun. He'd be perfect for Joe Burrow.
Okay, so San Francisco, did anybody else really stand out to you that I just mentioned there for Casey Concepcion?
I like the KOC fit. I want him in a Shanahan offense. So anything from that tree is good with me, including Miami, honestly, even though it's, it's not a high end. Who ended up coming over there as OC? It was a Shanahan tree guy,
Bobby
right?
Slowick.
Yeah, Slow came from it originally. Yeah. So anyone from if he can get in that scheme, that's where I want him.
Okay. Yeah, I like those. I like those fits. I agree with that. And I do think the Chiefs would be really interesting because I think he is kind of what they need as somebody who can beat man coverage, beat press coverage consistently. So he might carve out a really meaningful role for himself.
I want you to go talk to Mahomes and ask him what happened.
All right. 2 more potential round 1 receivers. It's Omar Cooper Jr. I think could go as early as 16 to the Jets, and that would probably be a pretty dope spot for him. I think that would be like an emphasis to give him the ball if he was there. And then it's a lot of these same teams. I think Philly would be sort of interesting. I would feel a little bit better about that for him than like the route him up type receiver that needs timing and stuff on the passes, where they could maybe just manufacture touches for him in a post AJ Brown world. I don't love it, but it's like not as bad as it feels for Concepcion in my mind. Buffalo would be interesting, but I think they really like Shakir. San Francisco would be interesting if they want some extra playmaking juice as they adjust to, maybe life without Kittle a little bit. I don't think the Chiefs would go after him, but he, again, fits their type. The Dolphins seems pretty interesting where he could maybe get a lot of looks. Any thoughts on any of these later, like in the round 1-2 turn range? Anybody stand out to you? Patriots, Seahawks, Titans?
Don't want Seahawks. Patriots is very, very interesting because I think his style of winning could fit the McDaniels style of offense. Maybe a 1-to-1 fit for losing Stephon Diggs type of situation. Though they obviously have Pop Douglas as well, so they have multiple guys.
Imagine if Pop Douglas didn't weigh 165 pounds. Imagine Pop Douglas was a big athletic stud.
Omar Cooper Jr. So I actually would like that fit stylistically with the Patriots a lot, actually, more I think about that. So, yeah, those would probably be 1 and 2. Don't hate Miami fit. Don't love anything else I see. Jets, no. Titans, not really. Vegas, yeah, sure, because we get to pair him with Mendoza. I like anytime you can build that quarterback receiver rapport and build it out.
Yeah, I think those are all interesting. I think the Patriots are probably just the best bet there. And again, San Fran, right? San Fran stands out. If whoever San Fran lands on, if they do go receiver, is going to be interesting to me. Okay, let's talk about Boston because he does, I think, kind of need a specific fit. So this will be. I know we're deep into the podcast here. We just got one more player to think about. So to the Jets, Denzel Boston, how do you feel? Do you feel like that could work? I think it would be nice for Garrett Wilson. I would really like for Wilson to be able to have more time to move around and be used in different ways. Do you feel enough confidence in this Jets team? I know we're cautiously optimistic. Do you feel enough confidence that maybe Boston could even, succeed there for fantasy?
No, I won't say I feel enough confidence, but as I look through these potential landing spots for Boston, I don't see that much that I love. What do you like? Okay, Philly, I wouldn't mind that one because Jalen Hurts' skill set fits him well. Mm-hmm. They're going to lose AJ Brown. I think that one's probably one of my favorites. Cincy, if they want to do that, which they won't, I don't mind that one because I think Burrow fits his skill set perfectly. Those are where I want the Hurts Burrow over the top throwers that are willing to do it and give those opportunities. Drake May, 31. I like that fit for stylistically speaking. He's willing to give them the opportunity.
I could see the Chiefs drafting him. They don't ever draft a guy like this, but they need a guy like this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel very good about it for
I feel
fantasy.
terrible fantasy if he went into the Chiefs, which is so crazy to say. The guys, they got Mahomes. I need you to talk to Mahomes and let me get to the bottom of this Mahomes thing, Jacob. But seriously speaking, no, I wouldn't be high on the Chiefs. Like I'm looking through it. I don't really see anything else. I mean, the Giants is not a terrible one at 37 because again, reminds me like what I was saying with Carnell Tate. Like this is what they need. This is the type of receiver Dart needs. This is the type of receiver that they need opposite of Neighbors. And Dart is willing to give him those opportunities and a lot of 50-50 balls.
Yeah. I think the Bills could use somebody like this if they're just like ready to move on from Keon Coleman. He's kind of like, I think, what they wanted Coleman to be.
I agree, but I hate any receiver that gets drafted by the Bills, and I will continue to hate any because I just watched that offense and they just hired what's his name as the coach, Brady. It is just so not wide receiver friendly, that offense. I like this year. A lot of people are going to end up pushing DJ Moore way up the board because it's like DJ Moore, Josh Allen, nobody else really. This is an amazing thing for fantasy, and it's like you watch a Chiefs game, you're like, here's another run to Cook. Here's another dump down to Cook. Here's a rollout pass to the tight end. And it's just like all this offense that has nothing to really do with the receiver.
Yeah. All right. We are just a couple days away from the draft. So we're thinking about these receivers who might go in round 1. I'm really excited to see how Thursday goes. We will have content every day this week, including Friday, to break down what happened on Thursday and maybe reflect on all 6 of these receivers with their new landing spots. Dan, I'm curious how you feel after projecting and thinking about the landing spots for these guys. Like, I feel a little bit worse about Boston. I don't like a lot of those later round spots where he might end up.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just like a lot of the fear that we had with his profile. Like a lot of those places might confirm it, where it's like, I don't know if this is going to do anything for us for fantasy. I'm curious how you feel after looking at these 6 and the spots they might land in.
I feel better than I thought I would about Tate and his landing spots. That makes me happy because I like Tate a lot as a NFL player. I've always felt good about wherever Lemon goes. The KC Concepcion, that gets me a little more nervous. Like I am a little bit worried of what you mentioned regarding like, can he not have a big role season 1? Because I think, in my opinion, everything he's shown on tape, he should be able to step right in into some offense. So that's kind of where I'm at with all the players. Tyson's just a weird one to evaluate, and he's going to be tough to figure out.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very weird draft where there's a lot of teams at the top that we actually feel good about for wide receivers. It's so weird that we have like 2 kind of similar archetypes of wide receivers in Tate and Boston, and we like the early picks more than the late picks in round 1. That's really unusual. But there are a lot of picks up there that I like. All right, on Thursday, do want to remind y'all that we are going to be our live show will be early, so 9 a.m. Eastern time, which means 8 a.m. for the dozens of Kansas City Royals fans that do exist. I had a buddy text me during the podcast, and he's like, Dan clearly doesn't understand what a sports town Kansas City is.
I don't think I do.
Yeah, you East Coasters. You think act like
we are such
you just don't
jerks.
exist over here.
Us East Coasters, we are such jerks. I will admit it myself. Trying to improve on that jerkiness, but I respect the Midwest. I double back on it. To your friend who texted you, I did double back on it like a minute later because I was like, you know what? I did live in Wisconsin, and I just remember how much they cared about their sports teams. And
what else do we have to care about? You know? Exactly.
Well, barbecue. The barbecue's great out there. I've never had KC barbecue. I've had Austin, Texas. I've had a lot of like South barbecue. I've had the KC version of barbecue. I'm very intrigued, and I really want KC barbecue, but I don't want to do like the gold belly thing, Jacob. I don't believe in that. Where like, have you heard of that service where like you can get like the best KC barbecue place delivered to your house in New Jersey, and it's like gold belly. It's like a service. So I'm like, and they wrap it well. I'm sure they prep it well, but it's like, no, if I'm going to eat the best KC barbecue, I want to be there live for it. And I don't want to be having like some shipped barbecue to me.
Interesting. Yeah, you got to get some KC barbecue. It's super, super solid. I got to get me some chomps.
Yeah. Chomps are great, man.
A lot of possibilities.
Zero sugar, grass-fed, 10 grams of protein. Keep you if you're trying to do what I do, which is intermittent fasting. It keeps you on the intermittent fast.
Thank you all for being here. We've given you a lot to chomp on, and there is even more coming this week. If you like NFL draft coverage for fantasy football purposes, we've got a lot. Got more profiles. They're going to be hitting the YouTube channel. So be sure to check those out. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. We're pushing that number up.
Hit the like button now.
Hit the like button, leave the comments as well. Thank you to everybody for being here in the live chat. That was a lot of fun today. Sounds like the live chat got tired of waiting on us, Dan, and they just decided to put together their own I think it's called Beyond the Box Score Sicko League.
Oh, really? They did it without us already?
I think they're creating a dynasty league. So I told them to go ahead and add me, and me and my brother will get in there and take their money.
Do not add me. I'm only going to do the main BTB Dynasty League.
I just love that they're impatient with it, and they just went ahead and started up on their own. Love the initiative.
And respect.
Right.
Respect.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks everybody for being here. We'll see you tomorrow. See you on Wednesday. See you on Thursday. See you every day this week.